Chapter 119, Devil Flowers. Dragon King. Wang Xian stood on the summit of a mountain in the dark and gloomy sea. He was pleased with the bunch of devil monkeys before him. Roving Heavens knelt in the center while holding onto his unknown metal rod. The rod was so hard that it was beyond Wang Xian's imagination. During the combat just now, Wang Xian's claw and dragon ball did not do any harm to it at all. Divine dragons did not need to fight with celestial weapons. The only celestial weapon that he had was the dragon ball. Hence, divine dragons did not know how to make weapons. But in the list of Dragon Palace's constructing materials, there was a pillar known as the Dinghai Divine Rod. Dinghai Divine Rod not only made a strong pillar, but it could also be used as a weapon. When Roving Heavens refined the rod in his hand to Dinghai Divine Rod, his combat power would be extremely domineering in the future. Wang Xian could already imagine the imposing fighting demeanor of a devil monkey blazing in devilish flames with a Dinghai Divine Rod. Behind Roving Heavens stood a bunch of devil monkeys. Among these monkeys, there was only one level 9, which is the highest level among all. The rest were level 8 and below, while most of them were level 5. There was a total number of 800 monkeys. All the devil monkeys bowed on the seafloor respectfully as they worshipped their new king. The devil monkeys were born with intelligence. As they cultivated, their intelligence would improve. Wang Xian did not need to activate their spiritual intelligence at all. He swung his arm and drops of blood essence entered the devil monkeys. Subsequently, he imparted the divine dragon transformation to all the monkeys. Consuming more than 800 drops of blood essence in one go had no impact on Wang Xian. Blood essence was related to dragon energy. He could use dragon energy to restore his blood essence. Thank you, Dragon King. The bunch of devil monkeys thanked him in synchronized voices. Roving Heavens, you'll lead them from now on. Get them to do their cultivation and listen to your orders. All of you will be part of the first division, Devil Division of the Dragon Palace, said Wang Xian to Roving Heavens. Yes, Dragon King, everyone replied loudly. Let's go. Follow me for a search of the nearby waters. We need to find sunken boats and a variety of resources. Wang Xian said to them. Yes. Wang Xian took the lead and swam ahead with Roving Girl and Roving Lobster beside him. Prime Minister Turtle was swimming at the bottom of the sea while Roving Heavens, with a few subordinates, were following behind Wang Xian. Compared to the time when they had just came, they had undoubtedly built up a massive lineup. Wang Xian had many followers after subduing the devil monkeys, but there was one weakness. Most of the devil monkeys were moving too slowly and could not keep up with their speed. Wang Xian could only slow down the speed without much choice. The ocean was vast, magnificent, and extremely mysterious. Occupying 70% of the earth, humans had yet to explore many regions of the ocean. The terrain of the ocean was much more complicated than the land. Some areas were covered by seaweed, some were barren and desolate. Some had towering seamounts on the bed of the ocean. Wang Xian stormed the ocean with a group of subordinates. In the shallow waters, all the marine animals fled in fright when they met them. There is a Chinese bahaba fish ahead. Seize it. He commanded those at the back. As they wandered around in the sea, Wang Xian was observing the surroundings before he saw a meter-long Chinese bahaba fish. A devil monkey lurched as it seized the Chinese bahaba fish. The devil monkeys could leap as far as 8 meters in the sea. Hence, their speed was much faster than ordinary fish. The devil monkey caught the Chinese bahaba fish easily and returned. Dozens of devil monkeys caught Chinese bahaba fish, giant yellow croaker and other precious fish. Wang Xian was catching the fish conveniently to replenish the top-quality ingredients in the first-grade restaurant. Dragon King, there's a sinking ship ahead. At this time, a devil monkey who was running all over the place reported to Wang Xian. A sinking ship. Wang Xian's eyes gleamed with excitement. Let's go over there. A sinking ship was the biggest treasure in the ocean. According to records, the gold and silver found in the sea were enough to buy over a developed country. The treasure in the ocean was beyond anyone's imagination. With a jerk, Wang Xian swam rapidly to the sinking ship. Sure enough. After he swam for about 2,000 meters, a sinking ship came into his sight. It was a modern ship. The ship was about 30 meters long with the front and back of the ship separated in different directions. The center portion of the vessel was covered in sludge. Wang Xian observed the sinking ship, and he was slightly disappointed. The ship was too small to cross the ocean, likely to be a fishing boat. Wang Xian exhaled a dull yellow dragon breath, revealing the entire ship buried under the earth. When Wang Xian looked over, he spotted some chests in the ship. He opened immediately. Gold. It's gold. 5 chests of golds. Wang Xian's eyes gleamed as he saw the shining gold. We found a ton of gold, 10 tons of steel. Do we collect them for the construction of the Dragon Palace? Wang Xian was looking bitter on his face. A ton of gold was worth more than 300 million. If he sold them away, he would instantly become a billionaire. Besides, these golds were more or less 1% of what he required for constructing the Dragon Palace. Collect them. Wang Xian made a decision, and the gold, even the steel on the vessel before him disappeared. Only some wood structures were left. Sigh. Wang Xian shook his head and continued hunting in the ocean. If he persisted, the Bohai Sea was too shallow. Wang Xian was considering whether to proceed to other water regions. As they went deeper into the sea, more fantastic living creatures and treasures could be found. But the sea was too vast. It would be a waste of time if he continued to search. He thought he could send the devil monkeys to explore the ocean for resources when the devil monkeys hit level 10. Dragon King, there's an aqua plant forest ahead. It's very magical and beautiful, said Roving Girl, pointing one direction after traveling for half an hour. Wang Xian looked over. A huge and magical underwater region was seen on the right. The entire underwater region was in a myriad of colors, full of fantasy just like how it was on TV and in movies. Many jellyfish were floating around, giving off all kinds of radiances. The underwater wonderland. This was the first time Wang Xian had encountered such a beautiful underwater world with various coral reefs and aquatic plants that exuded different radiances. Let's check it out. Wang Xian swam over with a group of subordinates behind him. We must make our Dragon Palace look as beautiful as this place in the future. Wang Xian swam over and observed the surroundings. Some of the jellyfish gave way to them when they sensed the imposing aura from them. The surrounding plants gently swayed, looking beautiful at the bottom of the sea. What's that? At this time, a pure red coral drew his attention as he looked ahead. Blood coral, the world's most precious gemstone, worth more than diamonds. That blood coral was worth over tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. The blood coral was located on top of a reef, looking beautiful with a few flowers of a size of 1 meter surrounding it. Wang Xian swam next to the blood coral. He was full of surprise as he reached out to grab the blood coral. Just then, the bright-colored flower below him suddenly moved. Chapter 120, Flower Sac and Heart-Shaped Blood Corals. The more beautiful a thing was, the more likely it became that it would be dangerous. Similarly, the more beautiful a place was, the greater the chances of dangers lurking in the dark. Wang Xian didn't pay attention to the beautiful flowers below him, as his attention was on the blood corals. However, just when he noticed it, it was already too late. 10 bright and gigantic flowers were like beasts on a hunt. In an instant, they launched a lethal attack. Within each flower were densely packed sharp needles. Their roots extended and their petals wrapped around Wang Xian's body directly. Although Wang Xian's body was over 5 meters long, the 10 large flowers were still able to cover his entire body. When he noticed he was attacked by these flowers, Wang Xian was greatly shocked. He could feel the sharp needles of these flowers piercing through his flesh. Although this didn't cause huge damages to him, he noticed that the sharp needles were injecting a poisonous substance into his body. These flowers are poisonous. Wang Xian immediately tried to wiggle his huge body to break free from the flowers. Swish swish swish. Suddenly, tentacle after tentacle extended from the ground and wrapped around Wang Xian. They came one after another at a frantic pace towards Wang Xian. These flowers are trying to absorb me as nutrients. Wang Xian was flabbergasted as he felt his body weakening. He immediately tried to change his elemental attributes. Wood element Azure Dragon. Switching between the 5 elements, Wang Xian turned into an azure dragon of the wood element. This won't do. After turning into an azure dragon, he was shocked that he couldn't break free from the hold of these flowers. On the contrary, he could sense that these flowers were feasting on his wood attribute's energy. Wang Xian's eyes flickered and attempted an attribute change once again. Metal counters wood. A metal attribute golden-colored divine dragon appeared. How dare you attack the Dragon King? You must be courting death. At this moment, Prime Minister Turtle, Roving Heavens, and the group immediately attacked the flowers after seeing Wang Xian being attacked by them. Roving Heavens swung his huge rod towards these flowers. Roving Lobster used his razor-sharp claws to attack furiously. Metal Edge Cosmos. Wang Xian turned into a divine dragon with metal attribute. He immediately noticed that the damages these terrifying flowers were dealing to him were reduced substantially. Wiggling his body, Wang Xian shot sharp metal needles at the petals of these colorful flowers. Swish swish swish. The flowers were pierced and Wang Xian immediately shredded the roots off him with his metal claws. Devil Flowers, Level 9. Extractable dragon energy from the flower sac, 45,334. Devil flowers. What kind of organism is this? It's so scary and it has reached level 9. Wang Xian looked at it in horror. A flower reaching level 9 and even disguising itself as ordinary plants. Just the thought of it made him shudder. The 10 devil flowers had actually trapped him for almost an hour. Dragon King. Sorry that we are late. Prime Minister Turtle swam over and spoke with concern. It's all right. Wang Xian shook his head and looked to the devil flowers he had killed. He extended his dragon claws over and grabbed onto the roots before pulling them out forcefully. A blood-red flower sac appeared in his sight. Flower sac of the devil flowers, level 9. Extractable dragon energy, 45,334. Can be used to restore and strengthen one's heart. Wang Xian looked at the information on the flower sacs of the devil flowers and was shocked. This could be considered a spiritual medicine. Restoring and strengthening one's heart was a powerful ability. Cultivation of ancient martial arts had a lot to do with one's heart. One could strengthen his internal energy by consuming this flower sac. At the same time, his cultivation speed would also increase. This is useless to me. Without a moment of hesitation, he devoured it. The 10 devil flowers provided him with over 40,000 points of dragon energy. These were also pleasant surprises for Wang Xian. This. Blood coral. Wang Xian turned his attention to the blood corals. Blood corals weren't big but looked extremely grandeur in the waters. Blood corals were regarded as auspicious objects and represented the noble as well as authority. They were also referred to as precious treasures and symbolized happiness and eternity. Just a single blood coral was worth over $10 million. Wang Xian kept it and looked across this dreamlike underwater region. I was a little careless previously. Although this place is beautiful, there are barely any fish around. Most of the fish were likely eaten by the devil flowers. These devil flowers emit a very unique scent, which makes one feel comfortable, to attract other marine animals. Wang Xian looked further ahead. He hesitated for a moment before embarking on his search of this region once again. Although the devil flowers were terrifying, he wasn't too wary after turning into the golden-colored divine dragon of the metal attribute. Considering that he was better prepared currently, level 9 devil flowers wouldn't pose much of a threat to him. Moreover, there was a large amount of dragon energy within the flower sacs of the devil flowers. This could provide him with the dragon energy required for leveling up. Lastly, there were also precious blood corals around. Therefore, he wasn't willing to leave this region. Wang Xian continued his search in this region for signs of devil flowers. Devil flowers, level 8. Extractable dragon energy from the flower sac, 19,654. There are over 10 of them here, but they are all level 8 devil flowers. Wang Xian looked ahead and the information about these devil flowers popped up in his mind. He gave a faint smile, swam over and swung his sharp dragon claws through them before extracting the flower sacs. These added up to an additional 100,000 points of dragon energy and Wang Xian was feeling great about it. Continue the search. This dreamlike region wasn't very big but still covered 7 to 8 kilometers. Wang Xian found a total of over 30 devil flowers in the vicinity. However, when he reached the central area, he was shocked by a giant devil flower. This particular devil flower had humongous petals that spread over 7 to 8 meters. Each petal was a different color, which included yellow, red, white, green, blue and others. Looking at the flowers, Wang Xian felt an urge to charge forward. ZZ. Suddenly, the devil monkeys around him seemed a little flustered. Their blood-red eyes turned blurry and they started walking towards the humongous devil flower. Growl. Wang Xian let out a dragon roar which jerked the devil monkeys awake. When the devil monkeys regained their consciousness, they couldn't help but look in horror at the devil flower. Devil flower, level 12. Extractable dragon energy from the flower sac, 1,112,343. Level 12. Wang Xian gasped. Considering what the devil flower could do, he had no way to deal with a level 12 devil flower. In fact, this devil flower could very well devour him. Forget it. Wang Xian looked at this devil flower with fearful eyes. Although devouring this devil flower could allow him to increase his level quickly, it was too dangerous. The seas are indeed mysterious. My current strength still isn't enough to rule the seas. Wang Xian sighed. When his attention landed on the area behind the devil flower, he stopped and had a joyous look. Surprise. A total surprise. It was a patch of coral reefs. The reason why he was so excited was because these blood corals were in a natural heart shape. This is what is really meant by precious. If I put this on auction, it would fetch at least $100 million. Chapter 121, The Girl That Drives a Bentley, 1. For all 3 days, Wang Xian explored the entire Bohai Sea with his subordinates. 3 days of sleepless nights did not impact him much. When Wang Xian stood on the Dragon Sect platform again, a large number of men had already gathered before him. Prime Minister Turtle, Roving Girl, Roving Lobster, Roving Heavens, and 800 devil monkeys. Apart from them, some sea turtles and lobsters with no spiritual intelligence lined up together too. These turtles and lobsters were captured by order of Prime Minister Turtle as he wanted to groom his own subordinates. Wang Xian thought for a while before he agreed to it. For Prime Minister Turtle and Roving Lobster to groom their own men was a good idea too. Cultivate yourself, and enhance your strength as soon as possible. Wang Xian looked at his men as he spoke. Yes, Dragon King. The response was much louder than the previous time he'd come. Wang Xian was satisfied. All the men from Dragon Palace disappeared in the ocean as soon as he gestured with an arm swing. All of them hunted for nearby spots to start their cultivation. Quite a good haul this time. I can sell them for quite a huge amount. Wang Xian was amazed when he checked out the treasures beside the Dragon Sect platform. Millions of dollars worth of Chinese bahaba fish and rare giant yellow croakers. 4 beautiful blood corals. One of them was ravishing, natural, heart-shaped, and the size of a thumb. Apart from those, they found 15 sunken ships in the last 3 days. Out of which, they found 3 ships with treasures. Wang Xian found an emerald ring which was worth a lot from the sunken ships. As for the gold and silver, it was taken by the system to construct the Dragon Palace. It has been 3 days. Time for me to go back. Wang Xian looked at the time and noticed it was already afternoon. He beckoned a few Dragonians over and got them to send the Chinese bahaba fish and the giant yellow croakers to the first-grade restaurant. After which, he kept the blood corals and the ring before he followed them back to the first-grade restaurant. Director Wang. Wang Xian heard Manager Huang's voice as soon as he was at the door. He turned around and looked at the shop front beside the first-grade restaurant. As he lifted his chin and gazed at the fascia board, a satisfied smile surfaced on his face. Divine Dragon Medical Hall. Quite a speedy job. Not bad. Wang Xian expressed his satisfaction on his face and walked towards Manager Huang. Is it renovated? Wang Xian asked directly. Director Wang, it's in the process. It will soon be done since the place isn't big. I'll get the contractor to do it within the shortest possible time. Manager Huang answered Wang Xian. Okay, let's take a look inside. Wang Xian entered. The size of this place was not very huge with about 170 square meters for the ground and second floor. But as a top medical institution, such a size was good enough. There would not be many patients in the future either. The renovation was done in a retro style, and it would take about 3 or 4 days before it was completed. Wang Xian was very pleased with the medical hall. After which, he went back to the first-grade restaurant to check on the revenue made in the past few days. The turnover for the past 3 days remained at just over 1 million for each day. Buzz. Just then, Wang Xian's phone rang. He received a message from Xiao. Brother, today's Friday. I don't have to do military training after school. So I'm having dinner with my friends. Wang Xian sent a message to Xiao when he came out of the ocean. He looked at the date. Without knowing, it was already Friday. Let's have it together. Just perfect, I can treat my roommates to dinner too. Wang Xian pondered for a while. He had yet to buy Zhang Wen and Zhang Feng a meal yet. The two of them were nice people. He should buy them a meal. Sure, brother. Where are you? We still have half an hour before we end. I'll look for you guys. Wang Xian got on his motorcycle and rode to school as he sent the message. After he entered the campus, he felt the familiar attention on him again as some of the students recognized him. Wang Xian looks really cool on his heavy-duty motorcycle. He's got a good figure too. So handsome. Yes, he's very handsome. No wonder Lan Qingyue declared that she likes him on the forum. Handsome is one thing. I bet Wang Xian has some capabilities too. Otherwise, how could he attract Lan Qingyue and Guan Shuqing? I heard that Wang Xian used to be very poor. He was working his ass during his first year. Now, he looks like he is loaded. He's indeed capable and charming. The surrounding students exchanged conversations in whispers. When Wang Xian heard that, he drew his lips. Looked like after he smashed the signboard of the Taekwondo club, his reputation had changed tremendously. At least those contemptuous and disdainful looks were gone. To stay low profile, Wang Xian took out and put on his sunglasses from the motorcycle. He did not return to his room. Instead, he called Wang Dehai. After the call, the 3 fellows in the room began to doll themselves up. Wang Xian came to the female dormitory and waited for Xiao and her friends to come down. Xiao and the rest had just ended their military training. They must be dolling themselves up. Girls like to look pretty by nature. Since they had been wearing military attire during the training for the past few days, they would want to show off their most beautiful sides now that they were heading out. Wang Xian took out his phone and waited downstairs. Hey, let me make myself clear. I'll sit beside Wang Yu later when we're having dinner. All of you cannot snatch the seat from me. Wang Yu is the prettiest girl in our class. We don't have hopes, but you still have a chance. We'll support you. Lu Ranran is not bad either. Besides, she's an internet celebrity. Ha, I like her. Lu Ranran seems haughty. She's not as good as Wang Yu. Wang Yu is like a girl next door. She's cute. I heard that Lu Ranran can earn a monthly income of $80,000 with her daily live streamings. She even got a car. Damn, being an online broadcaster makes you a lot of money. Only rich second generations like you have a chance to woo Lu Ranran and Wang Yu. We can forget about it. Wang Xian wore a pair of sunglasses to prevent himself from being recognized. When he was swiping his phone, he peered over in curiosity when he overheard the conversation around him. There stood 5 guys with tan skin. Obviously, they were freshmen from military training. One of them was rather good-looking with a height of 1.85 meters. Judging from his dress sense, his family should be quite well off. They must be Xiao Yu's classmates. Wang Xian pondered to himself as he listened to them. They are coming. Just then, the voices of the same group of guys were heard again. Wang Xian looked over to the entrance as 6 girls walked out of the dormitory. All the girls were dressed up beautifully after changing out of their military uniforms. A girl in the middle was in her high heels. Her bodycon clothes shaped her perfect figure, making her sexy and gorgeous. Xiao Yu was wearing a flower-patterned dress. Yuan, Su Qian, Xiaomi, and an ordinary-looking girl were standing beside her. Lu Ranran is so sexy, Wang Yu is so pretty. The guys beside them brightened up their eyes as they whispered. Chapter 122, The Girl That Drives a Bentley, 2. Lu Ranran, Wang Yu, Zhang Jing. When the guys saw them walking down, they immediately shouted. Lu Hui, you are here. The luscious Lu Ranran smiled at the group of guys and replied. Let's go, girls. Let's head out of school for a good meal. I'm feeling nauseous at the thought of canteen meals after having them for several days straight. That good-looking Lu Hui smiled as he spoke to them. Xiao Yu. When Wang Xian saw Xiao Yu walked out, he smiled and shouted at her. Brother. Xiao Yu lifted her head and looked over. A radiant smile appeared on her face as she walked over quickly. You are so tan now. I almost couldn't recognize you. Wang Xian pinched on Xiao Yu's face as he joked. Who is tan? I'm not even a tinge darker. Xiao Yu rolled her eyes at him and grumpily pushed away the hands that were pinching her face. Senior. Xiaomi, Yuan, and Su Qian also came over to greet Wang Xian. This senior in front of them was a well-known figure. All of you look tanner now. Wang Xian joked. Let's go, I'll treat you guys to a meal. Hee, thank you senior. Xiaomi and the group smiled happily. At this moment, Lu Hui and a few other guys looked over in doubt and saw Wang Xian with sunglasses. This is my brother and he's from our school too. My brother is bringing us out to eat. Xiao Yu smiled and said to Lu Hui. When Lu Hui heard Xiao Yu, he frowned slightly. Xiao Yu's brother. This won't be good. Let's not trouble your brother. Shall we just go on our own? Lu Hui smiled and asked. Not at all. I'll get my brother to foot the bill. Hee, replied Xiao Yu. Lu Hui opened his mouth, changed his intention and added, Xiao Yu, let's not make your brother pay for it. I can bring you guys to Hadaleo and it isn't too expensive. Let this be my treat today. Since Xiao Yu's brother would be following, he could only choose to use another strategy and act more generously. This was to leave a good impression on him. It's fine, let me do it. When Wang Xian heard his words, he smiled. It's fine. How could I make our senior pay for us? Come, let this be my treat today, Lu Hui insisted. Just let this be my treat today. I'm already starting to earn money. Lu Ranran flicked her hair, looking past Xiao Yu and Wang Xian. Let's discuss this after we get there. Seeing them, Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. Let's drive there. Lu Ranran, don't you have a car? I have one too. 2 cars are just enough. Lu Hui commented. Yeah, where did you park your car? I'll go get mine. Lu Ranran took out a BMW car key from her bag. At that side. Lu Hui smiled and took out a Benz car key as he pointed to the side. Oh, Lu Hui and Lu Ranran, you guys are really rich. Could it be those with the surname Lu are all rich? The few guys at the side spoke in envy when they saw them taking out keys to a BMW and a Benz. I bought my car with the money I've earned, Lu Ranran looked to Lu Hui and said proudly. Cough cough. This is a present from my dad when I made it into the university. Lu Hui smiled and didn't find this embarrassing. Let me go get my car. Lu Ranran took another glance at Lu Hui before heading for the car park behind the dormitory block. Seeing that they had gone to get their car, Xiao Yu hesitated for a moment before adding, my brother bought me a car too. I'll go get it. Xiao Yu, you got a car too? The few guys looked at Xiao Yu in disbelief and questioned. Yeah, my brother bought it for me. Hee hee. Xiao Yu laughed and headed for the car park behind the dormitory block too. Senior, I did not expect you to be so awesome. You even bought Xiao Yu a car. The few guys looked at Wang Xian and commented. It was a gift from others. I didn't have to pay a cent for it. Wang Xian shook his head. Oh, no wonder. The few guys nodded their heads. There weren't many students who could afford a car nowadays. Students like Lu Ranran and Lu Hui were part of the extreme minority. However, senior, you still look like someone incredible. Oh. To me, Lu Ranran and Lu Hui are more incredible. They could afford to drive a Benz and BMW while they were still students. If I could even get one in my lifetime, I'd be contented with life. The group of people waited by the roadside, chatting as they walked. What are you doing here, Wang Yu? At the back of the female dormitory block, Lu Ranran looked puzzlingly at Xiao Yu when she saw her. In their entire class and even the faculty, the two of them could be considered to be the 2 most beautiful girls. However, she realized that the gentle Xiao Yu, who also had the girl next door image, was more popular among the guys. This made her a little upset. Naturally, girls like to compare themselves with others. My brother bought me a car and I've parked it here too, Wang Yu smiled and replied to Lu Ranran. Oh. Lu Ranran raised an eyebrow. Not bad. As she spoke, she clicked on the key in her hand. The BMW 5 Series car sounded in front of her. I bought this myself. Which car is yours? As she spoke, her lips curved into a smile. Despite being a student, she had bought a BMW 5 Series with her own hard work. This was the reason why she had the capital to be proud of her achievements. That one. Wang Yu pointed to a car completely covered with a car hood. The car had been left outside for a few days. Xiao Yu wasn't willing to let it be battered by the wind and rain. Therefore, she had covered it up well. Let's go. Lu Ranran stole a glance and her lips curved into a smile. She entered the car, brought down the car window and smiled at Wang Yu. Wang Yu walked to her car, squatted down and started removing the car hood. A pink Bentley was slowly revealed. The car was elegant, breathtaking and grand. That distinct car logo, B, was so eye-catching. After placing the car hood in the boot, Xiao Yu opened the door and got into the car. Let's go. Xiao Yu also lowered her car window when she replied to Lu Ranran. At this very moment, Lu Ranran stared at Xiao Yu's car, completely dumbfounded. a pink teenage girl series Bentley. Bentley. It's a Bentley that costs $4 to $5 million. Her heart was shaken and her eyes were filled with disbelief. This is your car? Yeah, it was a gift from my brother. Xiao nodded her head, started the car and drove out. Looking at the breathtaking and luxurious Bentley leaving, Lu Ranran held tightly to the steering wheel. How can this be? How can this be possible? Bentley. That's a Bentley. Lu Ranran looked helplessly at the car ahead. Compare. What could she take out to compare? That car alone would be enough for her to buy 10 BMW 5 Series. At the other side, along the pathway beside the female dormitory, Lu Hui drove a $400,000 Benz over. He lowered the car window and said to the group of guys. Come, my car can fit 4 people at the maximum. 3 of you get in. Boss is really awesome. A Benz. Hee hee. The group of guys got in excitedly. Oh my gosh. Bentley. A pink Bentley. Chapter 123, Let's Be Friends, Tycoon. A pink Bentley slowly stopped at the roadside next to the girls' dormitory. Rivertown was considered to be the best second-tier city, but top-branded cars were uncommon. Especially a pink Bentley. This was the luxury car that all girls dreamt of. But 99.9% of the girls would not pin their hopes on it. Not many people could afford a car that was worth $4 to $5 million. At the very least, no one was driving such a luxury car at the University of Rivertown. Let alone the ladies. Hence, when the luxury car stopped by the roadside, it drew all the attention of the surrounding people instantly. What a beautiful car. It's simply gorgeous. Pink Bentley. Which girl is driving it? I'm dying of envy. A Bentley. A girl driving such a car is simply too striking. I'm envious. How nice would it be if I had one too? Must be an 80-year-old boyfriend gave it to her. Otherwise, how could she afford a Bentley? Envy and jealousy echoed in the surroundings. Brother, Xiao Yuan, Su Qian, get in the car. Xiao stretched her cute little head and shouted to Wang Xian and the rest. Xiao Yuan, and Su Qian were not surprised. After all, they already knew her brother's capability. But the guys and the other girl were totally clueless. Xiao was also a low-profile girl during military training. From her behavior, she did not portray herself to be a princess. Hence, everyone was dumbfounded when they saw her driving a car that was worth $5 million. Gulp. Lu Hui swallowed his saliva in his Mercedes as he gazed at the pink Bentley with his eyes wide open. Out of expectation. I never thought that Wang Yu came from such a wealthy family. This. He recalled how he'd flaunted his Mercedes car key just now. His lips twitched as he squeezed a smile on his face. Wang Yu, I didn't know that you're actually a princess. Hee hee. Xiao giggled to him. She noticed that the people around her were pointing and taking photos of her car, so she quickly said, let's go. We better hurry up. Okay, let's go now. Lu Hui answered quickly. Now, he did not dare to pretend he was rich anymore. Let's go. Wang Xian sat in the passenger seat inside the car. He did not ride the motorcycle away, as Wang Dahai would be riding it over. The 3 girls sat in the back. The other girl and a guy took Lu Ranran's car. Brother, this is too high profile. When the engine started, Xiao spotted that some of the students stopped walking just to view her car. They even took photos of it. For a moment, her cheeks blushed. She had never been in the limelight since young. It's okay, girls should be pampered. Wang Xian said with a smile. Xiao, you are so blessed to have such a brother. Others would be too envious of you. Yes, Xiao. You're too low profile. Just look at Lu Ranran. She can't wait to let the entire school know that she's an internet celebrity, earning $80,000 monthly, and owning a BMW. Su Qian said from the back. Xiao Yu smiled and said no more. She just wanted to be herself. The car drove out of the school and headed to the old street. After Xiao Yu parked the car, some of the guys crowded around her car with astonished looks on their faces. Wang Yu, this is awesome. Too impressive. It's a Bentley. A pink Bentley. Gosh. I learned something today. A guy said in exaggeration. Come on, it's just a car. Wang Yu smiled and shook her head. Just a car. We could worship the car. A guy twitched the corner of his lips. We thought Lu Hui and Lu Ranran were already impressive. But Wang Yu, you concealed yourself well. Several of them rattled on. Lu Hui and Lu Ranran at the side were looking embarrassed, but they did not say anything. When the gap between both parties was too huge, they lost the motivation to make a comparison. All they could do was worship. No way could they make a comparison. Let's go. I'll take all of you to dinner. Later, you guys will sit at a table while my roommates sit at a table with me. Wang Xian explains this to them as he led them to the first-grade restaurant. Senior, anything will do. Anything, the guys quickly replied. The first-grade restaurant. When they reached the door, the guys took a glance and looked at Lu Hui. Senior is awesome. Treating so many of us to dinner here could easily cost over 10,000. Lu Hui drew his lips as he spoke. Lu Ranran nodded her head silently and followed them in. Director Wang. They heard the greeters at the side as soon as they entered through the door. Okay. Wang Xian nodded and continued his way inside. The group of people behind froze as they were all stunned. The first-grade restaurant is owned by Xiao Yu's brother, said Su Qian, looking at them. Senior owns the first-grade restaurant. All of them stared with astounded eyes as they were overwhelmed by the shock. First-grade restaurant. Looking at the fish that were worth millions on display, the amount of shock they received was hard to put into words. Xiao Mei, get the kitchen to prepare some dishes. Get us a big table for 12 people and a small table for 4 people. Prepare 2-headed abalones for each table. Wang Xian looked at Xiao Mei and said. Yes, I got it, Director Wang. The server, Xiao Mei, nodded her head immediately. Okay, let's go to the private room. Wang Xian told them as he led them to a private room. 2-headed abalone. Senior just took 2 2-headed abalones out. Gosh. They're worth $600,000. Gosh, we're going to have a meal that is worth a few hundred thousands. Hard to believe. It's hard to believe. All of them were stunned. Even Lu Hui and Lu Ranran were dumbfounded. The cost of this meal could easily pay for their cars. Xiao Yu's brother is a tycoon. Did you all see the watch she's wearing now? She just put it on today. Can you guys guess how much it is? Xiaomi lowered her voice and asked her with smiles all over her face. All of them looked over. Lu Hui was pondering, that brand should be Patek Philippe. Patek Philippe's watches should be more than a few $100,000. Lu Ranran continued. $880,000. Xiaomi gestured with her fingers. All of them went into silence as they slowly shook their heads. Impressive. I'm willing to shorten my life by 20 years to have such a great brother. This bunch of students finally understood who were the rich people and who were the tycoons. They stared at Xiao Yu as they could not imagine such an approachable and cute girl to be so filthy rich. First-class branded car, and a watch that cost nearly $1 million. Let's be friends, Tycoon. Chapter 124, Princess Xiao Yu. In a large private lounge in first-grade restaurant. There were 2 tables in the private lounge. Xiao Yu and her classmates were sitting around a table. Wang Xian, Wang Dahai, Zhang Wen and Zhang Feng sat around the other table. Come Tycoon. Let's have a toast. Wang Dahai, Zhang Wen and Zhang Feng raised their cups and signaled to Wang Xian. I had really not expected you to become so rich. If I hadn't heard it from Dahai, I wouldn't have believed it. Incredible. A million thanks to the Tycoon, Wang Xian, who is treating us today. I have to eat till I can't even walk today. Zhang Wen and Zhang Feng looked at the dishes on the table and remarked emotionally. Wang Xian smiled and said, Come, let's have a toast. It's fate that brought us together as roommates. Cheers. Wang Xian's table had started eating without holding back. As for the table beside them, Xiao and her classmates had not started at all. Nowadays, girls like to take pictures of their food before they start eating. It was the same for some of the guys. There were also guys who weren't into this. However, everyone resisted the temptation of the food this time. They wanted to take photos before they start eating. Nope. Rather, they wanted to show off to others before they started eating. After we upload these pictures to our circle of friends, they will definitely be impressed. Two-headed abalone and Atlantic bluefin marlin for this meal. Hee hee. Hee hee. Xiao, this is too extravagant. Thank you, Xiao, for your warm welcome. The group commented as they took pictures and uploaded them to their circle of friends. Even Lu Ranran and Lu Hui, who came from well-to-do families, couldn't contain themselves and took a few pictures to show off. Come, let's take a group picture. Lu Hui stood up and said to the group. Take a look at our school forum. There are many people commenting on Xiaoyu's pink Bentley. Really? Let me see. It's true. There are quite a number of replies too. Don't just look at the forum. Take a look at our class Weixin group. They were talking about this too. The few guys commented and soon everyone took out their phones to check. In their class group chat, a student had uploaded a few pictures and added, there's a pink Bentley beside the female dormitory block. It's so stunning. Oh damn. Who's that filthy rich girl who could actually afford to drive a pink Bentley? Looking at the cup noodles beside me. Haze. Forget it, I'll add a strip of bacon. Who's that girl? Is she single? I'll pursue her. Comparing with others would only deflate myself. I was still considering the brand of bicycle I should get. Now. In the class group, the group of students were chatting raucously and sighing. The group around the table found this to be hilarious. Su Qian laughed and uploaded the pictures she took today onto the group. Take a look. Who do you think this is? She smiled and clicked the send button. The group got silent for a few seconds. However, it exploded shortly after. Damn. What the hell? Why does she look a little like Wang Yu? She doesn't just look like Wang Yu. It's her. The owner of the pink Bentley is our class goddess, Wang Yu. She has hidden it too well. Wang Yu looks so approachable like the girl next door. Who would have expected her to drive a Bentley? Worship. I never expected our class to have a hidden princess-level existence. The group exploded immediately as the students couldn't help but sigh. Towards the end, even the school counselor commented. No one had expected that demure, cute and beautiful girl would be so incredible. Let's give them another piece of shocking news. One of the male students revealed a smile and uploaded a picture of their meal. Xiaoyu's brother is giving us a treat. First-grade restaurant is her brother's restaurant. This meal alone costs over $100,000. That male student added the comment. Replies flooded in quickly for that comment. Perhaps they couldn't imagine the life of the filthy rich. $100,000 for a meal. They wouldn't even dare to dream about it. This is equivalent to a princess-level existence. The students sighed emotionally. After this incident, Xiaoyu had become famous in the class. In fact, the entire school might get to know about her in the near future. Wang Dahai and Wang Xian were chatting joyously while eating. Soon, Xiao Yu and her classmates also started. Towards the end of the day, Xiao Yu's classmates went over to Wang Xian one after another to give a toast to him. No matter what, they had to thank Wang Xian and Wang Yu for treating them to such a luxurious dinner. The dinner ended at around 10 p.m. Wang Xian stood up and walked over to Xiao Yu. You will be having your off day tomorrow. If you'd like to tour around, take this card along. You could stay and play for free in the Summer Sun Resort with it. Wang Xian passed the family membership card of the Summer Sun Resort to Xiao Yu, as he wouldn't be using it himself. Alright, brother. Aren't you coming with us to play tomorrow? Xiao Yu asked while taking the card from Wang Xian. I'll give it a pass. I'll be a little busy for the next 2 days and have things to attend to. You guys could go and have fun. Wang Xian smiled as he replied. Alright then. Xiao Yu nodded her head and didn't question further. The group headed back towards the school with satisfied smiles on their faces. This time, when Xiao Yu drove her car to the car park behind the girls' dormitory block, Lu Ranran went over enthusiastically and even helped her put up the car hood. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that she knew that Wang Xian had rumors with Lan Qingyue and Guan Shuqing, she might have asked for Wang Xian's contacts from Xiao Yu. However, after giving it some thought, she gave up on the idea. Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue were famous goddesses of the school. They weren't something she could match up to. When Wang Xian got back to his dormitory, he had a good night's sleep. He had not slept for the last 3 to 4 days. The next morning, Wang Dahai went over to look for Su Qian at the break of dawn. When Wang Xian woke up, it was already 10 a.m. After washing up, he went over to his medical hall. He would still prefer to take a look at the renovations of the medical hall. Moreover, there were still some things that he had to give instructions about before buying. Currently, Wang Xian liked to wear a pair of sunglasses while in school. It wasn't that he wanted to look cool to others, but rather that he wanted to prevent others from recognizing him. However, when he reached the entrance of the school, he still sensed a sharp gaze looking at him. Wang Xian looked over in the direction and was slightly surprised. It was a juvenile that was looking at him. That juvenile from the Sacred Followers Guild. There was also a middle-aged man beside the juvenile. That middle-aged man was skinny and wore a white shirt and a pair of gray pants. The middle-aged man was also staring at Wang Xian. His gaze was sharp and felt chilly. Wang Xian didn't pay attention to it as he continued walking forward. However, even if Wang Xian didn't want to be bothered by them, it didn't mean that they wouldn't bother him. The two of them headed straight to him. Wang Xian lifted his eyebrows and stopped. He looked at the middle-aged man and that juvenile. Hey son, how are you? The middle-aged man walked over and said to Wang Xian. Do you have something for me? Wang Xian looked at them and asked. Nothing. The middle-aged man looked at Wang Xian from head to toe. He shook his head and commented, it's just. If you have nothing, I have something going on. I'm not too close to you guys, so don't come and disturb me. Seeing their attitude, Wang Xian interrupted his words directly in a sharp and cold manner. After finishing his sentence, he turned around and left. Chapter 125, Medical Hall is open. Wang Xian ignored that fellow. He was even more annoyed with the middle-aged man. If both of them came with a good attitude, he would not have any comments. But all they did was stare hard at him, and judge him from head to toe without any courtesy. People would have thought that this middle-aged man was a pervert. Wang Xian usually ignored such people. I don't care who you are. Who cares? The faint smile froze on the face of the middle-aged man. He darkened his expression and glared coldly at Wang Xian. Master, this fellow is too arrogant. Last time, he even commented that the Sacred Followers Guild is trash. Too haughty. We ought to teach him a lesson. The juvenile by his side stared at Wang Xian as he spoke viciously. He bore grudges ever since what happened last time. He told his master about this since he was here. Yet his master's curiosity was piqued, and that was not what he had expected. After some investigations into that young man, the outcome took them by surprise. According to the information from the Sacred Followers Guild, he was not a disciple of the Sacred Followers Guild. Wang Xian might have inherited the medical skills from some experts unknowingly. Hence, his master had a plan. Yes, he's arrogant. This lad probably thought he could afford to be haughty. Radiance flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes as he stared at Wang Xian. He thought he could be arrogant since he has ties with Qin family and Shui family. Ha! Master, he probably didn't know what we're capable of. Should we teach him a lesson? Coldness flashed in the juvenile's eyes. Sacred Followers Guild cannot be humiliated. No spirits or God could save them if they did. The middle-aged man displayed a cold look. Initially, I wanted to recruit him to the Sacred Followers Guild and get him to hand over his medical skill inheritance. Since he is so ignorant, I shall not give him any face. Master, what should we do? Upon hearing what his master said, the juvenile looked surprised. We must teach him a lesson. Didn't he open a medical hall? If that's the case. Radiance flickered in the middle-aged man's eyes. Some lads don't know what's good for them. We need to teach him a lesson. Hee. That's right, master. We need to teach him a lesson. The juvenile showed excitement on his face. Anyone who provokes Sacred Followers Guild is seeking their own doom. No spirits nor gods can save them. Let's go. We'll meet the people from the Yen family. I heard that the old man in Yen family has already attained half-step level, said the middle-aged man. Yes, master. The juvenile nodded and followed behind his master. Yen family was ranked first in the ancient martial artist family of Rivertown. They were the absolute ultimate existence in this town. Even though Yen family had retreated for 20 years and things had changed, they were still known as the first in the Rivertown. The rest of the ancient martial artist families could never be comparable with the Yen family in terms of their capabilities. Wang Xian came to the Divine Dragon Medical Hall and suggested some ideas to the renovation workers. Once the renovation was completed, they could use it immediately since they only used materials of the best quality. In addition, Wang Xian also got Old Qin and Old Shui to promote his business for him. Publicity was difficult for Wang Xian, but it was a piece of cake for them, especially Old Qin. Old Qin pulled strings for him. In the future, those eligible patients were recommended here for treatment if they could not get themselves cured in Rivertown's hospital. Wang Xian also fixed a price. Cost of treatment would start from $2 million. No money. I'm sorry. Please leave. The Divine Dragon Medical Hall is not a charity organization. No money, no cure. Wang Xian was not a Virgin Mary that would treat any poor man who came along. There were too many pitiful people around the world. If all of them need treatment, wouldn't he be tired to death? Hence, Wang Xian laid some ground rules. 1. Treatment fees start from $2 million. Subject to conditions. 2. No money, no cure. 3. Appointments need to be made in advance. 4. Open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. These 4 rules, in his opinion, were not harsh at all. They were achievable. Time passed by, and Wang Xian just shuffled between the restaurant and Divine Dragon Medical Hall every day. The weather was rather hot these few days. Xiao had been complaining to him how hot it was during their military training. Seeing her getting darker each day, Wang Xian decided to find a chance to strengthen her body with the dragon energy. With regards to his sister's future, he had some struggles. He wanted Xiao to practice the divine dragon transformation with him. But Xiao did not have the divine dragon bloodline. Wang Xian could not possibly insert his blood essence into his sister. If she did, she would be controlled by him. Then she would possess the mindset that she was under his command. Naturally, he did not want his own sister to do that. It was possible for her to practice ancient martial arts. However, he did not have the methods. What Mo Qinglong practiced was considered a devilish art. It was not suitable for Xiao Yu to practice. Whereas Shui family's art of cultivation could only be practiced by the men. Hence, he did not mention too much to Xiao Yu. After the Dragon Palace was built, there would be ways. The Dragon Palace had a treasure known as the Dragon Evolution Fruit. After eating that, one could transform into a dragon. When the time came, he would just need to ask his sister to take the fruit and that would do. Boss, all the things are ready. We can open for business tomorrow, said Manager Huang after he checked on all the things in the medical hall on the fourth day. Okay, done. Wang Xian nodded. All the renovation was completed. The medical hall was painted in green with wood furniture. Green represents wood attributes. Hence, Wang Xian felt that this was a suitable color. The entire room was very simple, with 3 beds and 4 chairs in the middle. The second floor had the exact same layout with 3 beds. I have invited those who needed to be invited. Tomorrow, the medical hall will be officially opened. Wang Xian smiled. If the medical hall succeeded in the future, the revenue from the first-grade restaurant could not hold a candle to the revenue of the medical hall. The medical hall was opened for business the next morning. There was no stage or publicity. Wang Xian put 2 wooden signs on both sides of the medical hall. One said, "May the opening be a success." Another one had the Divine Dragon Medical Hall's rules written on it. The rules were what Wang Xian had set. As a Divine Dragon Medical Hall, there must be some style in it. The 2 signs before the entrance were very eye-catching. The pedestrian traffic was huge on the old street. Some of them looked at the medical hall with curiosity. Medical halls had almost disappeared in modern times. There were only pharmacies, healthcare services, and hospitals. But an ancient medical hall was rarely seen. Some of the people crowded around and looked at the ancient and plain-looking medical hall. A curious old man walked closer and read the fascia board. He then swept his gaze at the signs near the entrance and got a shock on his face. What does it say? Treatment fees start from $2 million. Subject to conditions. No money, no cure. Appointments need to be made in advance. Open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. What kind of medical hall is this, with the cost of treatment that starts at $2 million? Nowadays, people are crazy about money. Is a deity the doctor? It's so expensive. Chapter 126, Challenge 1. That's strange. Someone actually decided to open a medical hall here. Medical halls are rarely seen nowadays, although there might still be some in the rural areas. Nonetheless, isn't this medical hall a little too much? Treatment starts at a minimum of $2 million. Are they crazy? This is likely just their publicity stunt. Each of its 4 rules gets more and more absurd. They are probably just fooling around. Look, there's no one here to see the doctor. Moreover, I don't see any medicine in it. Outside the Divine Dragon Medical Hall, a curious crowd had gathered to take a look at this new medical hall. Looking at the notice board placed outside, every one of them shook their head. Disregarding the other rules, treatment fees at a minimum of $2 million could already deter many people. $2 million. What kind of illness would require treatment of $2 million? The crowd exchanged their views and quickly scattered. That old man that had joked that this medical hall was treating deities had also left after seeing the exorbitant price. Wang Xian sat in the medical hall and smiled upon hearing the conversations outside the medical hall. This was what he wanted to achieve. He did not wish that his medical hall would be as noisy as the wet market. His positioning had been set to focus on the high-end market. "Brother Wang Xian, you seem to be in high spirits." At this moment, Wang Xian heard old Qin and old Shue's voice from outside the shop. There were also some family members of the Qin and Shui families behind the two family heads. "Congratulations on the opening of your medical hall." 5 to 6 people walked in. They were all wearing smiles as they observed the surroundings. Shui Jing and Qin Lianhui each held onto a congratulatory gift which they eventually placed on the table by the side. Wang Xian stood up to welcome them. "I'm still waiting for old Qin and old Shui to direct some business to me." "Ha, there's definitely business for you." Old Shui laughed heartily. "I have introduced you to a few ancient martial artists. All of them had hidden injuries on them that require treatment. The directors from several hospitals in Rivertown will also be coming over in a while. They could also help to introduce patients if they fulfill the criteria." Old Qin replied. "I really have to thank you guys then. Let's have a feast for lunch," Wang Xian smiled and replied. Just as they were chatting, a middle-aged man and an old man arrived at the entrance. Carrying the congratulatory gifts in their hands, they took a look at the signboard to confirm the location before entering. Isn't that the director of the #1 hospital in Rivertown? I recognize him. He's incredible. That seems to be the director of the #3 hospital in Rivertown. They aren't the only ones. The directors of several other large hospitals are all there. Who's the owner of this Divine Dragon Medical Hall? Why are there so many influential figures?" With a dozen-plus people suddenly entering a rather unique medical hall, it immediately drew the attention of many people. Passers-by, who were initially curious about the medical hall, were all shocked by what they had seen. Considering that the directors of several large hospitals had come, it was easy to tell that the owner wasn't someone ordinary. "Director Li, you are here. Come in." As the group of hospital directors and influential people in Rivertown entered the shop, old Qin immediately went over to welcome them. Wang Xian smiled and followed. These were all his guests and he had to rely on them to refer business to him. "Thank you, directors, for coming. I'm really grateful." Wang Xian went over and exchanged customary words. "This must be Brother Wang Xian. Indeed, heroes are often developed from youth. May your medical hall prospers in years to come. Congratulations." The group of hospital directors greeted enthusiastically. Wang Xian smiled in response and exchanged customary words. He was clear that they were here because of old Qin. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to invite this group of people. "Old Shui, I hope we aren't late." Less than half an hour after the arrival of the hospital directors, another group of people entered the shop. "There's also no one in Rivertown who dares to speak to me, Yan Zhongyuan, in such a way," the sturdy middle-aged man beside the slim middle-aged man added in a cold tone. "Sacred Followers Guild. Yan family." Exclamations sounded in the medical hall. Chapter 127, Challenge 2. Sacred Followers Guild. Yan family. To the people of Rivertown, each of them represented a supreme existence. In particular, one of the two medical sacred sects, Sacred Followers Guild. Any members from the Sacred Followers Guild possessed huge influence. Greetings to the senior. Those hospital directors in the medical hall revealed an appalled expression. They hesitated before they greeted him respectfully. No choice, the Sacred Followers Guild was influential in the medical field. They were so strong that even directors had to treat members of Sacred Followers Guild with care. This was the power of the Sacred Followers Guild. Yan Zhongyuan. Old Shui, Old Duan, and the rest of the ancient martial artists fixed their gazes at the sturdy middle-aged man beside the members of Sacred Followers Guild. A burly figure with shoulder-length hair made him look a little out of this world, but none of the ancient martial artists on the spot dared to underestimate him. Yan family, Yan Zhongyuan. Both names were good enough to hold Rivertown in awe. Old Duan clenched his fist as he glared at Yan Zhongyuan with hatred in his eyes. But helplessness took over what was in his eyes. Yan family was too strong. Yan Zhongyuan's reputation was domineering too. Old Shui had mixed expressions. Eventually, he took a deep breath and spoke no more. The group of ancient martial arts experts did not utter a word. Upon seeing everyone's shocked and respectful manner, the slim, middle-aged man made a prideful gesture. Yan family, Sacred Followers Guild. Wang Xian gazed at Yan Zhongyuan and that middle-aged man with radiance flickering in his eyes. Both Yan Zhongyuan and the middle-aged man from the Sacred Followers Guild were staring back at Wang Xian with disdainful looks in their eyes. How reputable, Sacred Followers Guild and the Yan family. Ha! Wang Xian was composed as he stared at them scornfully. Yes, how reputable. Old Qin swept his gaze across the directors and spoke slowly with a darkened expression. Those hospital directors dreaded the influence of the Sacred Followers Guild. The ancient martial artist families were afraid of the Yan family. But, not the Qin family. No matter how formidable the ancient martial artists were, they were still under the governance of the country. Even the inborn experts could not do anything they pleased. Qin family, the family that had a long history in Rivertown, was not afraid of the ancient martial artist family. Of course, Qin family would not provoke them since it would do them no good. The middle-aged man from the Sacred Followers Guild and Yan Zhongyuan took a glance at old Qin without saying anything. Both of them were not afraid of Qin family either. I, Feng Huazi, heard that there's a little miracle doctor over here. So, I'm here to look around and spar with him at the same time. When I saw the fascia board on the medical hall, I thought it was inappropriate. I think the medical hall should change its name to Little Worm Medical Hall. Ha! That would suit it the most. Feng Huazi of Sacred Followers Guild jeered as he looked at Wang Xian. Upon hearing him, Wang Xian revealed a faint, cold smile. Does that mean that if I think that Feng Huazi is a bad name, I can call you Jiao Huazi? Asshole, you better watch your mouth. Your medical hall just opened for business today, and we are here to challenge you. If you lose, you'll have to smash your signboard and close down this place. In medical learnings, there's no first or last. But don't disgrace yourself when your skill is lousy. As soon as Wang Xian finished his sentence, a juvenile jumped out and pointed at him as he bellowed. Sacred Followers Guild is here to challenge. This is getting out of hand. Sigh, I never thought that this young man would have provoked the Sacred Followers Guild. We can't meddle in this anymore. On account of old Qin, let's just stay and watch. The directors were exchanging conversations in whispers with awful looks. If it were not on account of old Qin, all of them would definitely support the Sacred Followers Guild. It was all about the reputation. The reputation of the Sacred Followers Guild was like a towering mountain to them. Hence, they were in favor of the Sacred Followers Guild. Chapter 128, Challenge 3. Let's make everyone the judges for this contest. Does anyone have any issue with it? Old Qin looked at the face-off of Wang Xian and Feng Huazi, and asked loudly. Sure. The winner of a contest of medical skills will be clear to tell. Feng Huazi looked past old Qin and said plainly, medical skills are about the 4 diagnostic methods of observing, listening, questioning and feeling one's pulse followed by manipulation, medicinal herbs, and acupuncture for treatment. Since we are going to compete, let's start with these. Observe, listen, question and feel one's pulse. Wang Xian looked at him and revealed a faint smile. He knew nothing about these diagnosis methods and naturally wouldn't be a match in these aspects. Troublesome. Since we are going to compete, it's natural to cure the patient. That's the core of medical skills. No matter how great you are in these 4 diagnosis methods, it's useless if you can't cure the patient. Wang Xian spoke plainly. The surrounding hospital directors nodded their heads silently. These 4 diagnosis methods were frequently used a long time ago. However, in the current era, there weren't many who specialized in these. It wasn't that these methods weren't important anymore, but it was because of the advancement of technology. Whether a doctor was great or bad depended on if he could cure his patient. It was pointless to have other fanciful packaging. Alright, how shall we do it? When it comes to medical skills, you aren't a match for me either. Feng Huazi gave Wang Xian a harsh stare and said. We have a few members of the underworld here today and most of them have hidden injuries that have not recovered completely. Let's see who can cure them of their injuries. I believe this wouldn't be a problem for you, right? Old Shui looked at Wang Xian before turning to Feng Huazi. Feng Huazi squinted his eyes, and looked across the people beside Old Shui before agreeing, I don't have an issue with it. I'm fine with it too. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. Since you guys are going to compete, you guys can use me for the contest. Old Duan walked out and stopped between Wang Xian and Feng Huazi. I was injured by a poisonous palm strike 10 years ago. The poison has entered my bone marrow and I'll have a day each month where I'll feel worse than death. As Old Duan spoke, his gaze swept past Yan Zhongyuan and felt a tinge of resentment. I'm fine with the arrangement. Wang Xian nodded his head directly. Suddenly, Yan Zhongyuan, who had been staying at one side, spoke to Feng Huazi. Miracle Dr. Feng, I believe we should find another person. The poison palm strike on him was dealt by me when we sparred. Oh, in that case, let's find another person. Since this reckless man was injured by you, let's forget about him. Feng Huazi nodded his head. When Old Duan heard their conversation, rage welled up to his face. His eyes burned with rage as he stared intensely at Yan Zhongyuan. What? Do you want another fight? However, if you lose again, it won't end so well. Yan Zhongyuan looked at Old Duan with contempt and threatened. Puff! Old Duan's face was seething with anger. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes and did not speak another word. You guys sure are asking for a lot. Wang Xian looked to Old Duan and said, Old Duan, I'll take care of your injuries. It wouldn't be a problem. Old Duan's body stiffened. His eyes jerked open as he stared at Wang Xian with joy. Brother, can you really cure my injuries? Not an issue. Wang Xian nodded his head and replied confidently. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Old Duan answered in agitation and his body was even trembling slightly from the excitement. At this moment, Yan Zhongyuan said emotionlessly, if you cure the opponent of the Yan family, that would be equivalent to going against our Yan family. You have to think about it. Oh, the Yan family. Wang Xian turned his head to Yan Zhongyuan and said with contempt, so what if I'm going against the Yan family? Hee hee. Hee hee. When Yan Zhongyuan saw Wang Xian's reaction, he smirked. Interesting. Interesting. To see that there would be people willing to go against our Yan family. You will learn about the consequences soon. Is it? Wang Xian's eyes flickered and broke into laughter. He diverted his attention to the few martial artists and no longer paid attention to Yan Zhongyuan. Is there anyone who wants to volunteer? Let me do it. My injuries were sustained during a fight in the past. My 5 visceral and 6 bowel organs were torched by the devil technique. I once sought treatment from a disciple of medical saint's sect but he wasn't able to cure me completely. A middle-aged man stepped out and flipped up his clothes. At the location of his stomach, there was a clear palm mark. The palm mark was filled with densely packed black dots and looked horrifying. Black rain palm. When Feng Huazi saw the injury on the middle-aged man, he was shocked. Yeah, it is the black rain palm. The middle-aged man nodded his head bitterly. What a creepy injury. That looks horrifying. What kind of injury is that? If he was sent to our hospitals, we wouldn't even know where to start. The few hospital directors exchanged gazes and were clearly shocked. They were discussing softly about the injury among themselves. Feng Huazi took a few steps forward to take a closer look at the injuries. Your injuries must have been sustained 3 years ago. The one who fought you probably hadn't mastered Black Rain Palm. Otherwise, you would have died on the spot. However, looking at your current situation, you wouldn't live longer than 5 more years. You are not able to engage in vigorous activities currently, or might not even be able to bend your back because of the injuries, which makes you feel unbearable pain. At this moment, Feng Huazi looked just like an intelligent old man. He stood beside the middle-aged man and explained the symptoms to him like a real master in medical skills. Yes, Miracle Dr. Feng is right. When the middle-aged man heard Feng Huazi explain all the symptoms he was facing, he became agitated. Miracle Dr. Feng, is this curable? Incredible. Just a look at it and he could tell all the symptoms of the injuries. He truly lives up to the name of the Sacred Followers Guild. His medical skills are so impressive. Miracle Dr. Feng Huazi's medical skills are godlike. This young man is finished. Feng Huazi's explanation was direct and succinct. This greatly impressed the crowd. Everyone, including the hospital directors and martial artists, were looking in awe at the confident Feng Huazi. This was why the Sacred Followers Guild was so powerful. TSK. My master is an incredible existence even within the Sacred Followers Guild. When the juvenile heard the exclamations of the crowd, he got pleasantly contented. He looked to Wang Xian and said, "We will cripple your arms in a while. Just accept your fate without resistance." Feng Huazi revealed a faint smile and looked at Wang Xian with contempt. In a proud and demeaning tone, he continued, "I can cure this guy." "Brat, what about you?" Everyone's attention had fallen on Wang Xian at this moment. They were all here because of Old Qin and Old Shue's invitation. With regard to this young man, they weren't too confident about his capabilities. After all, Wang Xian was too young. Now that he was competing with an expert from the Sacred Followers Guild, no one really had high hopes of his chances of winning. It was especially so after they witnessed the medical skills of Feng Huazi a while ago. It was really impressive. Even Old Qin and Old Shui were looking at Wang Xian anxiously and weren't too certain that Wang Xian could win. After all, the one he was competing with was from the Sacred Followers Guild. If you were going to administer treatment, how would you go about it and how long would you take? Wang Xian didn't answer Feng Huazi directly and posed a question instead. I'll be using acupuncture and medicinal herbs. I'm confident of curing him completely within 2 days. Brat, just stretch your arms over. Think about it, I'll give you another option. I hate that mouth of yours. You could use your tongue in exchange for your arms. Hee hee, that's a pretty good deal for you. It was healed. Too fascinating. Look. I really recovered. I finally recovered from the injury that has been torturing me for 3 years. As Gao Qing exclaimed, he patted his stomach with excitement. There's no such thing as impossible. You're just a piece of trash. You still have the cheek to challenge with that petty skill of yours? Wang Xian sneered at Feng Huazi. Now, can we fulfill our bet? Impossible. I don't believe you can treat the Black Rain Palm within 5 minutes. No way. He exclaimed in disbelief. Seeing that Gao Cheng had fully recovered, Feng Huazi was looking dreadful. Absolutely impossible. No way. Why not? Miracle Dr. Wang deserves his name. He purged the toxic of the Black Rain Palm with his hand in 5 minutes. Look. Look. Gao Cheng rebuked in a loud voice as if he was a loyal fan of Wang Xian. His body jerked as he released an imposing vibe of a martial artist. My cultivation is restoring rapidly after I recovered. Within days, I will be able to return to my peak condition. He really recovered. It's confirmed. He's recovered. 5 minutes. He used only 5 minutes to treat Gao Cheng. He's more formidable than the Sacred Followers Guild. Where did this mysterious young man learn his medical skills from? He is highly proficient in it. The crowd was witnessing the entire incident with shocked faces. Some were surprised, some were exclaiming in disbelief. The rest had respect for Wang Xian from the bottoms of their hearts. The hospital directors were looking at Wang Xian with great admiration in their eyes. In medical learning, there is no first nor last. Whoever possesses the skill will win. Wang Xian, with a skill that surpassed the Sacred Followers Guild, was worthy of their respect. Let's materialize the bet now. Wang Xian looked at Feng Huazi and said coldly, given the reputation of the Sacred Followers Guild, I'm sure you will not go back on your word. Feng Huazi had a mixed expression with a slight tinge of fear in his eyes. The bet was to cripple both arms. He trembled, as he did not expect he would lose to a miserable extent. But, Feng Huazi dared not go back on his word because of the reputation of the Sacred Followers Guild. He believed the other party would spread the word once he broke his promise. By then, the Sacred Followers Guild would cripple him without any helping hands. No one can humiliate the Sacred Followers Guild. Yan Zhongyuan darkened his expression gradually. It was beyond his expectations that Feng Huazi would lose to a nobody. He had followed Feng Huazi here because Feng Huazi saved the old man in his family. He did not anticipate such a situation now. Give me face and let this matter rest. Yan Zhongyuan lifted his chin and looked at Wang Xian, I can forgive your ill manners just now. Give the Yan family face. As Yan Zhongyuan spoke, he exuded a powerful vibe from his body. Everyone around him took a deep breath. Yan Zhongyuan spoke for the Yan family. He was protecting Feng Huazi. In Rivertown, the Yan family could not be stopped. Scram! Chapter 130, Return of the King. Scram! Wang Xian shouted and his voice exploded in the medical hall. When Wang Xian finished his word, the entire medical hall quietened down. They were looking at Wang Xian in shock. The one he was chiding was from the Yan family. When Yan Zhongyuan heard his words, his face stiffened and his expression turned heavy gradually. He stared at Wang Xian with killing intent. I dare you to repeat yourself. Yan Zhongyuan gritted his teeth and threatened, word by word. Can't you understand the human language? Wang Xian replied in the same manner coldly but with the intention of mocking Yan Zhongyuan. The atmosphere in the medical hall chilled rapidly. Everyone held their breath as they witnessed this shocking scene. Seeing this, Old Qin said with an angry expression, a loss is a loss. Could it be that you are trying to impose your will on others? He looked to the few hospital directors and his eyes were filled with displeasure. The hospital directors were stunned and understood that Old Qin wasn't pleased with how they had reacted previously. One of them gritted his teeth and said, a contest of medical skills shouldn't be affected by age and authority. The winner has the right to decide the fate of the loser. These rules have to be followed. Yes. The other hospital directors seconded and nodded their heads. This group had no personal view and would go whichever way the situation dictated. Now that Feng Huazi had lost, they naturally knew where they should stand. As for the rest of the martial artists, they didn't speak a word. Nonetheless, all of them had their attention on Feng Huazi, Yan Zhongyuan and his clique. What they were implying was crystal clear. The rules were the rules and the Yan family still did not possess the strength to break them. With the Qin family around, the Qin family would at least have the right to speak up. Great, great. Yan Zhongyuan looked across coldly before landing on Wang Xian. Just you wait. Now that you've offended the Yan family, I'll let you know what is worse than death. Can you represent the Yan family? Wang Xian smiled and stared at Yan Zhongyuan. What I've said are the words of the Yan family. If you dared to touch Miracle Dr. Feng Huazi today, I'd guarantee the Bohai Sea would have another corpse. Yan Zhongyuan threatened. All right, understood. Wang Xian nodded his head. Brat, if you dared to touch my master, you wouldn't even know how you die. The juvenile behind Feng Huazi stared at Wang Xian with his bloodshot eyes. He had also not expected his master to have lost to this brat. Wang Xian looked emotionlessly at the juvenile before turning to the silent Feng Huazi. He mocked, stretch out your arms. Otherwise, I'll publicize this throughout the underworld and let others determine how reputable the Sacred Followers Guild is. Hee hee. You. Feng Huazi stared fiercely at Wang Xian. He had not expected Wang Xian to be still thinking of touching him after Yan Zhongyuan had threatened him. Yan Zhongyuan heard Wang Xian. His expression turned even colder and he gave him a death stare. The complexion of the juvenile by the side had turned pale. I guess I have to do it myself. Wang Xian added as he stretched his hands over and placed them on Feng Huazi's arms. Feng Huazi's body shivered slightly. The consequences aren't something you can bear. Yan Zhongyuan stared at Wang Xian and reminded him. Wang Xian was unmoved. He smiled radiantly and stared at Feng Huazi. You wouldn't dare. I, Feng Huazi, have cured countless experts. If you dared to cripple me. Feng Huazi rambled on with a hideous look. However, before he could complete his sentence, he gradually lost all feeling in his arms. His face stiffened and fear gripped him. If I crippled you, Wang Xian smiled and continued staring at him. Then as a doctor, you wouldn't be able to use your arms anymore. In the future, you would have to use your legs to administer acupuncture for others. Yeah. That would be an incredible scene. Wang Xian gradually retracted his arms as he spoke. He smiled and looked across the group. I won't be sending you guys off then. How dare you really crippled my arms? How dare you? Feng Huazi's body shivered vigorously. To his horror, he could no longer sense the existence of his arms. It was as though they had been wiped off unknowingly. This sent a chill down his spine. If the arms were crippled by the common way, he still could rely on his medical skills to restore them quickly. However, he couldn't sense what the issue was with his arms at all currently. In fact, he couldn't even sense his arms. Great! You are still the first one who wouldn't show respect to the Yan family. Yan Zhongyuan clenched his fist tightly, smirked and stared at Wang Xian. Not going off. What are you still staying for? Wang Xian looked at them and mocked. My arms. I'll remember this. Feng Huazi stared at Wang Xian. His face had turned a little pale as he turned around and left. You better remember it. Your arms can't be cured. Rest assured. My medical techniques in the field of osteopathy are still very good. Wang Xian added this in bad taste as he saw the back view of Feng Huazi leaving. Feng Huazi stumbled and almost fell to the ground if not for the juvenile beside him who held on to him. Hee hee. Wang Xian laughed and had a satirical smile. Brother Wang Xian, you just offended the Sacred Followers Guild and Yan family completely. You have to be careful from now on. Seeing that Feng Huazi and the group had left, Old Qin reminded in a solemn tone. Yan family. Wang Xian's eyes shimmered and revealed a smirk. Yan family's strength is truly terrifying. Even if all the other ancient martial arts families allied together, they wouldn't be as strong as the Yan family. An old member of Yan family reached martial artist level 9 20 years ago. He's probably even stronger now. Now that you have offended the Yan family, things will get troublesome. Old Shui spoke with a heavy heart. When he had just arrived at Rivertown, Yan family was already a great and giant force in Rivertown. If he had to go against the Yen family, he would have no confidence at all. Just a few days ago, the Yen family announced that they would be returning. They have invited all the martial artists of the underworld to attend the Yen family's banquet in 2 more days. Although it was said to be a banquet, it is also a form of declaration. A declaration of their return. They are announcing to all that the king of Rivertown will be returning. I dare to bet that during this banquet, they will show their strength and even resort to violence to warn the rest. Moreover, the ancient martial arts families in Rivertown will experience a major reshuffling when the time comes. There will probably be many families who would choose to go under the umbrella of the Yen family. At the side, old Duan added with a solemn face. He'd had conflicts with the Yen family previously. Now that the Yen family was returning, it would definitely be a huge blow to the Duan family. Reshuffling. Old Shui heaved a sigh. When he knew that the Yen family would be returning, he immediately invited Old Qin and Wang Xian. This was done in the hope of strength in numbers. And to deal with the changes happening to Rivertown in the future. Looking at it now, everything was hard to tell. The day after tomorrow. Wang Xian heard their conversation and a faint smile appeared on his face. Announcing the return of the king of Rivertown for the future. In that case, Wang Xian would like to make an announcement too. The descent of the king. As to who would be the real king, he would really like to know. Chapter 131, Choice. Wang Xian, do you want to go into hiding for the time being? Old Qin suggested in the medical hall as he was worried when he saw Wang Xian deep in thought. Wang Xian was back from his daze. He shook his head and grinned. Just a Yen family. Since they are announcing the return of the king, I'll check them out the day after tomorrow to see how the king returns. As he spoke, he widened a suggestive smile on his face. Old Qin was startled, while old Shui was looking at Wang Xian, stunned. Okay, after a morning of eventful happenings, it's noon now. I'll treat everyone to the first-grade restaurant for lunch. Anyone who needs treatment can queue up in the afternoon. Wang Xian changed the subject and beamed at everyone. Miracle Dr. Wang, we should be the ones who buy you lunch. Yes, we should. Let's go. We can have our lunch first and wait to get treated. It's not urgent now. The surrounding martial artists answered readily. All of them suffered from internal injuries. Since they'd finally met such a skillful doctor, they must show their respect and enthusiasm. Given that they were not some powerful martial artists, it would be extremely difficult to invite doctors from the Sacred Followers Guild or Medical Saint sect to treat them. They might not have many doctors, but each of them had a strong network. They would ignore those who did not have a background or could not afford their medical fees. Even for old Duan, he could not invite the Sacred Followers Guild or the Medical Saint sect to treat his injuries. This was also their proud capital. It's okay. I own the restaurant next door. I'll buy everyone lunch to thank you all in advance for referring business to me in the future. Wang Xian chuckled and brought them to the first-grade restaurant for a delicious treat. A total of 5 martial artists required treatment in the afternoon. Among them, old Duan had the most severe injury. Hence, Wang Xian consumed much of his dragon energy. The other 4 were treated easily. Thanks, Wang Xian. Thank you. Let me know if you need any help in the future. After old Duan recovered from his injury, he was full of gratitude. You're welcome. I was paid. No need to thank me. Wang Xian waved him off. But sometimes, money cannot necessarily cure my injury. I still have to thank you. Old Duan bowed and said with gratitude. You can come back to me again if you need any help, said Wang Xian as he lifted old Duan up. Then, I shall not disturb you further. Old Duan nodded and left after a few polite remarks. Wang Xian was grinning as he looked at the medical hall after everyone left. The medical hall makes the most profitable business. Wang Xian exclaimed. He had received a total of 35 million for his medical fees after treating 5 people. Out of that, 20 million came from Old Duan, as he consumed much more dragon energy. Those who were treated, including Old Duan, wanted to befriend Wang Xian after they had seen his formidable skills. This allowed Wang Xian to realize the benefits of being a skillful doctor. The Sacred Followers Guild is so prideful and arrogant because they have a powerful network. Just Feng Huazi alone can get Yan family to strike for them. How strong can the entire Sacred Followers Guild be? When Wang Xian thought of the vicious look on Feng Huazi's face, he knew he had completely fallen out with him and the Sacred Followers Guild. Regardless of Sacred Followers Guild and the Yan family, so long as you provoke me. Radiance flickered in Wang Xian's eyes. He had made a decision. First, he would get rid of the Yan family. A week is over. I should be back in school. Wang Xian was sitting down, pondering over some thoughts. When he looked at the time, it was already 5 o'clock. He stood up slowly and went back to school. His 1-week leave was up after spending 3 days in the sea and 4 days in the medical hall. But still, Wang Xian could not attend school because he would have to stay in the medical hall. When he was back in school, surrounded by students with hands full of books, Wang Xian suddenly felt that he was not of the same world as these people. Buzz! Buzz! At this time, Wang Xian's phone rang. He took it out and froze after looking at it. 2 messages from 2 people. One was Guan Shuqing, and the other was Lan Qingyue. The messages had similar content, asking if he was in school and if he wanted to have dinner together. Wang Xian hesitated as he was unsure of how to reply to their messages. He could not possibly go out with the 2 of them. Should he reject both? In that case, he would feel apologetic to the 2 girls. Hey, isn't that Wang Xian? The guy who was fancied by the 2 goddesses, Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue? Yes, how lucky he is to have earned the hearts of the 2 beautiful goddesses. I wonder who he will choose. Should be Lan Qingyue. After all, she had an influential family background. If he marries Lan Qingyue, he can enjoy the rest of his life. That's true. Guan Shuqing pales in her family background. Otherwise, she's not a bad choice. There's a post on the school forum about who Wang Xian will pick in the end. Guan Shuqing had more than 1,000 supporters, while Lan Qingyue had over 5,000 supporters. After all, Lan Qingyue has a better family background. Suddenly, Wang Xian overheard the 2 girls whispering next to him. Wang Xian was stunned. The school forum's post. He frowned deeply as he fished out his phone. Indeed, there was a post regarding his choice between Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue. When he saw the post, he was not feeling prideful at all. Instead, a dreadful look surfaced on his face. He had not felt the way he did now when the people in the school forum called him a scumbag. That was because he did not care about his own reputation. But now, 2 girls were involved. Getting all the finger-pointing would upset the 2 girls. In particular, Guan Shuqing. After all, he and Guan Shuqing shared a long history. Who? Wang Xian took a deep breath. He fancied Guan Shuqing. Lan Qingyue, too. Forget it. Not many people were infatuated. Wang Xian was not one of them either. But he knew that he had to make a choice. Wang Xian took out his phone. He hesitated before he replied to Guan Shuqing. Sure, where are you? I'll look for you. Then he looked at Lan Qingyue's message and replied, Hey, I'm having dinner with Guan Shuqing tonight. Sorry. A choice. A tough decision. But this was a choice he needed to make. If not, what else could he do? Make both of them his girlfriends? Would they agree? Date both of them together? Wouldn't they mind? Heartbroken. Apparently, it was not easy to date both girls. If he did not make the decision when he needed to, he would suffer the consequences. So he chose Guan Shuqing, whom he was very fond of and had been together with him for a longer time. Chapter 132, Mr. Feng. Did he choose Guan Shuqing? In one of the rooms of the girls' dormitory block, Lan Qingyue's already pale face was filled with misery. I just need a hug and some comforting words right now, but who would have expected? Although I have thought of the possibility of you choosing him, why does it have to be right now? Lan Qingyue was in a daze and her complexion was as white as a sheet. Weng. At this moment, her phone rang. She saw that it was from her dad as she picked it up in a daze. Qingyue, we need you back to handle the company matters. If we can't get past this hurdle, our Lan family will be in deep trouble. The solemn voice of her father sounded from the other end of the phone. Lan Qingyue was hesitating. Dad. Why don't I just drop out of school and focus on managing the family business? Lan Qingyue's father pondered for a moment before replying slowly, all right. You wouldn't really learn anything from school anyway. It's fine if you are coming back to manage the company in advance. Yeah. Lan Qingyue was a genius. When she was 14 years old, she'd demonstrated exceptional business acumen. At that time, she followed her grandparents and stayed within the company for the majority of the days. Gradually, through learning and understanding, her talents in business were quickly developed. When she was 17 years old, she was already able to complete a project on her own. Lan Qingyue's performance greatly shocked everyone in the Lan family. Subsequently, the master of the Lan family decided that he would hand over the Lan family's business to Lan Qingyue for management. After a few years, she had further consolidated her position as the successor of the family business. However, it wasn't that simple to manage a family corporation with a market capitalization of close to $10 billion. After hanging up the phone, she looked around her room blankly and flipped through some photographs in her phone gallery. Do I not have any chance now? A teardrop flowed out slowly from her eyes. Lan Qingyue rested her head and arms on the table and her shoulders were shaking slightly from sobbing. Isn't that Guan Shuqing and Wang Xian? They are eating together again. Yeah. Look, they are really intimate. Could it be that Wang Xian has gotten together with Guan Shuqing? Really? Wang Xian has chosen Guan Shuqing. If he has chosen Guan Shuqing, it must be true love. After all, Lan Qingyue's qualifications are too good. Within the school, when the students saw Guan Shuqing eating with Wang Xian, they were all shocked. They had not expected Wang Xian's final choice to be Guan Shuqing. Xiao Xian, when do you think we can go for a picnic again? I really miss the time when we had a picnic at the Eastern Hill. Hee. Guan Shuqing smiled radiantly at Wang Xian as she spoke. Picnic? That's easy. If you like, we can have it tonight. Nope. I have already eaten tonight. I'll get fat if I eat again. In that case, let's do it tomorrow. I'll get some large lobsters, crabs. Wang Xian chatted happily with Guan Shuqing. After they finished their meal, the two of them took a walk around the school again. Guan Shuqing had likely sensed something and took the initiative to hold Wang Xian's hand. Wang Xian smiled and walked around the school with her. The two of them were just like any couple as they strolled within the school. The news of Wang Xian choosing Guan Shuqing was also revealed on the school forum by others, causing a huge uproar. I really had not expected Wang Xian's final choice to be Guan Shuqing. This must be true love. Lan Qingyue's family is so rich and yet he has chosen Guan Shuqing. What a man. Wang Xian has made the right choice this time. If he can give up a girl with a superb family background and choose to be with Guan Shuqing will likely be very blessed. The news of Wang Xian getting together with Guan Shuqing was shocking to many people. However, there was still a large number of students who were impressed with Wang Xian. The next day, Other than staying in his medical hall, Wang Xian spent all his remaining time with Guan Shuqing. He had also thought it through. Since he had made his decision, he shouldn't try to hide the facts. However, he sat within his dormitory room in shock on the third day. Old Wang, Lan Qingyue has suspended her studies and has submitted her resignation as the vice president of the student council. I heard that she wanted to drop out of school initially, but the school has retained her name in the school's name roll. Nonetheless, she is unlikely to come back in the future, Wang Dehai said to Wang Xian. Looking at his reaction, Wang Dehai shook his head. I had not expected Lan Qingyue to be so in love with you. You are a really lucky guy. Wang Xian frowned. He took out his phone but hesitated. In the end, he did not contact her. Lan Qingyue's sudden drop out of school frustrated him a little. Bam! At this moment, the door of the room was kicked open suddenly with a loud bang. Who's that? Don't you know how to be softer? Wang Dehai turned around and cried out unsatisfactorily. However, when he saw the figure by the door, he was slightly surprised. At the door, an extremely handsome man was standing there. He had a pair of eyes, which inclined upwards, and thin lips which made him look extremely beautiful. That's right, he was beautiful. This was an extremely beautiful and exquisite-looking man. Wang Dehai opened his mouth slightly. You are Mr. Feng. Mr. Feng was a very mysterious person in the school. All the students only knew that he was so good-looking that he made the other male students jealous, and was so beautiful that even girls envied his beauty. His family was extremely rich and he rarely appeared in school. Among the girls, they referred to him as Mr. Feng, a rather elegant name. You must be Wang Xian. Mr. Feng didn't pay attention to Wang Dehai and stared fervently at Wang Xian with his sharp eyes. Wang Xian looked at the extremely good-looking guy at the door and roared impatiently, Speak. I just returned yesterday and I had not expected Lan Qingyue to have dropped out of school because of you. Therefore, I decided to investigate about you. To my surprise, you are really outstanding. Mr. Feng walked over slowly with his eyes fixed on Wang Xian. It was as though there were nothing and no one around him. I'm really surprised to learn that there is a man as outstanding as you. Mr. Feng was observing him as he complimented Wang Xian. However, you've made two mistakes. He wasn't bothered by Wang Xian's silence. First, you shouldn't have made Lan Qingyue fall in love with you. Second, you shouldn't have offended my Yan family. I'd like to invite you to a place tonight, he continued. As he spoke, an invitation card appeared in his hands. He flicked it lightly and it landed on the table beside Wang Xian. I'll make this an unforgettable night for you. If you don't come, you better watch out for your relatives and friends. Mr. Feng turned around and left with a huge smile after completing his sentence. Everyone in the school knew that Mr. Feng was fond of Lan Qingyue. However, Lan Qingyue didn't have the same feelings at that time. Subsequently, Mr. Feng, for unknown reasons, had rarely gone to the school. Now that he had returned, he received two pieces of negative news. He truly appreciated the fact that there was such an outstanding man in Rivertown, as he felt that there was finally someone he could relate to. However, it was destined that one of them would disappear forever from Rivertown. Wang Xian looked at his back view and a faint smile appeared on his face. It's the Yan family again. Threatening me. His mood wasn't great to start with because of the Lan Qingyue incident. Wang Xian took out his phone and called Mo Qinglong. He only told him 4 words. Dragon sect, fall in. Chapter 133, Craziness Before Destruction, 1. Craziness Before Destruction. Whenever Wang Xian fought with someone in the past, he did not prefer talks. Instead, he struck immediately. But this time, he wanted to have some fun. The Yen family had been threatening him time and time again. If he did not let them have a taste of despair, he would be letting himself down. Wang Xian wanted them to fall, as heavy as they could when they were at the top. Dragon King. Harmonious voices sounded off in front of him. Wang Xian opened his eyes and saw 52 Dragonians gathered before him. Mo Qinglong, his disciple Mo Yuan, and 50 Dragonians. Mo Qinglong had already hit the Inborn realm while his disciple, Mo Yuan, was a level 9 martial artist. The rest of the remaining Dragonians remained at level 7. Level 7 was considered high in Rivertown. The current old Shui was only a martial artist at level 7, but the Shui family was ranked 4th in Rivertown. Old Duan was only a level 8 martial artist. Level 7 Dragonians may not fight 2 levels above them, but they could easily deal with level 8 martial artists. As for level 9 Mo Yuan, he could defeat half-step to Inborn, but he's still not a match for Inborn expert. As for Mo Qinglong, he's invincible to the Inborn experts. Wang Xian looked at the Dragonians and pondered. The strength and defense capability of the Dragonians was not any average martial artist could compare with. In the future, they could even fight 2 or 3 levels above them once they activated the divine dragon bloodline within them. With such a strength, it is good enough to deal with the Yen family. Wang Xian looked at the Dragonians and burst out softly, "Follow my orders today. Our target is the Yen family. Today it's your first appearance. I hope all of you will not disappoint me." "Yes, Dragon King." All the Dragonians answered with bountiful fighting spirit. "Follow me and wait for my orders." The Yen family was the #1 ancient martial artist family in Rivertown. They were known as the domineering giant in this place. 20 years ago, the Yen family announced that they would go into seclusion to avoid chaos. They stayed low profile and ignored all underworld and society affairs. A few days ago, the Yen family announced their comeback. Their comeback stirred a great commotion in the entire Rivertown. In particular, in the ancient martial arts circle. Their comeback marked a huge shuffle in the rankings. 20 years ago, the Yen family had 3 level 9, 6 level 8 and dozens of level 7 martial artists. With such strength, the family was an invincible existence in Rivertown at that time. And they remained invincible at present even with their strength from 20 years ago. Now, 20 years had passed, and the Yen family could only be more powerful. The comeback of the Yen family struck fear into all the martial artists and the martial art families in Rivertown. Today, it was the 9th day since the Yen family made their comeback. At the same time, it was the day they declared their return formally. The Yen family invited all the martial artists in Rivertown to the Yen family's mountain villa. Everyone knew their intention. The declaration of the king's return. Yen family's mountain villa was situated before a summit near the sea known as Mount Qingfeng. The entire Mount Qingfeng belonged to the Yen family. Hence, the Yen family's mountain villa was worthy of its name. The villa was extremely lively in the evening. The martial artists and the martial art families in Rivertown were not a lot, but were made up of 300 to 400 people. All the martial artists were moving to the Yen family in groups. Some of them had grave expressions, some were feeling uneasy. Some were looking thrilled. "When will Wang Xian be here?" asked old Duan to old Shui in a group of more than 20 people. "I called him just now. He should be here soon. Let's go in." Old Shui replied slowly with a solemn face. Wang Xian did not give any face to the Yen family. "I'm afraid today," old Duan was a little worried. He should have his own plans. Old Shui was contemplating too. He could not tell Wang Xian's thoughts. Given his understanding of Wang Xian and the imposing vibe that he released occasionally, he could sense the domineering strength in Wang Xian. Wang Xian was full of mystery. Since he dared to show up for this event, he should have some backings. But, all these were just his conjectures. All the families and martial artists in Rivertown are here. No one dares to turn the Yen family down. I wonder what they will be doing or what announcement they will be making at this event, old Duan said as he tensed up. We'll take one step at a time. There are so many martial artists in Rivertown. I doubt the Yen family can take things too far. Old Shui pondered and answered him as he walked. Isn't that? Suddenly, an exclamation was heard. Old Shui and old Duan peered over their shoulders immediately. They raised their eyebrows. Hu family? The one beside the master of Hu family is Whirling Blade Hu Fei. Is Hu Fei part of the Hu family? This is possible. Hu Fei is ranked 7th in Rivertown. Hu Fei did not rise in Rivertown, but in the far north. No one has linked Whirling Blade Hu Fei with the Hu family. From the looks of it now. Unexpected. Totally unexpected. Hu Fei is a level 9 martial artist. What did the Hu family bring Hu Fei here for? To strengthen the Hu family, or are they together with the Yen family? Old Shui and old Duan were looking even more solemn than ever when they saw the sudden appearance of the level 9 martial artist. The water in Rivertown got murkier. No one could predict what would happen at tonight's dinner. All the martial artists entered the ancient-looking villa. The villa looked retro as if it was one of those secluded villas in the martial arts movies. 2 burly, middle-aged men were standing on the left and right of the entrance. From the vibes they gave off, all the martial artists that streamed in had grave expressions on their faces. Even the gatekeepers are level 5 martial artists. The Yen family is too domineering. All the power of all martial artists in Rivertown combined may not be comparable to the Yen family. People around exchanged whispers. Stepping on the red carpet, everyone strolled into the villa. The villa was huge, with little bridges and streams, looking picturesque. There was an open space all the way to the back. It was filled with tables and chairs as though it was a sect gathering from the ancient underworld. On the tables were fruits and food. 2 striking flags were placed at the sides with words that said, Return of the Hidden Dragon. Roaming the 9 skies. The words were magnificent. Guests can sit according to their strengths and rankings. A steward look-alike middle-aged man stood in front and gave everyone the instructions. His hands were behind his back, with the imposing manner of a level 8 martial artist. Everyone took a look and headed to their seats after a slight hesitation. Starting from the second family in Rivertown, Ren family, Hu family, Duan family, Shui family etc., they sat in their own seats. Half an hour before the start of the Yan's dinner event, everyone was here early. The steward observed the situation with a glimmer of satisfaction on his face. This is right. When the Yen family returns, all of them must submit to them. Chapter 134, Craziness Before Destruction, 2. 7:30 p.m. The table set up at the Yen family's mountain villa training field was filled with martial artists. Martial artists from Rivertown sat in 2 rows according to their strength. Those who were at the forefront were all top-ranking families. However, there were 8 seats placed horizontally across the middle. These seats were for the Yen family. The Yen family was very particular about the setting of this banquet and was being extremely arrogant. 2 straight vertical rows for the various martial artists of Rivertown and a horizontal row at the front for the Yen family. This setting was an emulation of the local authority in ancient times. The king would be seated in the middle. And his officials would sit in 2 rows in front of him. Everyone could tell that the Yen family was seeing the other families in Rivertown as their officials, while they were the king. There was still half an hour until the start of the banquet. Seeing that everyone had arrived, the Yen family felt satisfied. At approximately 7:35 p.m., members of the Yen family started walking in from the entrance to the banquet one after another. The 6 of them instantly attracted the attention of everyone. In the middle of the group, an old man held a walking stick with a dragon head at the top. He had a head of gray hair but the looks of a child. One would easily mistake him for a middle-aged man of 40 to 50 years old. To the side of this old man was an extremely good-looking juvenile wearing white. The juvenile had pearl-white teeth and thin, red lips which made him look extremely beautiful. Beside the two of them were two old men. They had burly statures and looked across the surroundings as though they were far superior to the rest. Further to each side were two middle-aged men. The old man in the middle must be the leader of the Yan family, Yan Gukong. He reached martial artist level 9 20 years ago. I wonder if he has taken that final step. The oldest generation of the Yan family included Yan Gukong, Yan Gufeng, and Yan Gyuli. Among them, Yan Gukong is the strongest. Those two middle-aged men are Yan Zhongyuan and Yan Zhongwen. Both of them are level 8 martial artists. Together with their martial artist level 8 butler, they still have 3 other level 8 martial artists who aren't here today. They are too strong. Really too strong. Even if Yan Gukong hasn't made the breakthrough, the strength that the Yan family has displayed is enough to overwhelm everyone here today. The martial artist families and martial artists, who were seated at the side, looked at the 6 people in shock as they walked towards the seats at the forefront. When the 6 of them reached their seats, they turned around and looked down on the surrounding crowd. Yan Gukong was holding on to a dragon head walking stick and shouted, 20 years ago, our Yan family announced our retirement and stayed away from the matters of the underworld. On this very day, 20 years later, our Yan family is announcing our return. The reason why we have invited everyone is to announce this. 20 years. We have been missing from the underworld of Rivertown for 20 years. Today, our Yan family is back. Yan Gukong lifted his head slightly and looked across the 2 flags erected at 2 ends. Return of the Hidden Dragon. Roaming the 9 skies. As he spoke, a faint smile appeared on his face. I'm grateful to everyone who could attend the Yan family's banquet. Please enjoy the food and alcohol today. However, our Yan family has a few things to announce before we start. It's coming. The entire banquet hall was silent. When they heard Yan Gukong, their hearts skipped a beat. What was coming next would affect everyone's interests. Yan Gukong looked across the crowd and showed a faint smile. First, the Yan family hasn't participated in the quarrels of Rivertown in the last 20 years. Since we are announcing our return, it's only natural for us to collect some interest. Experts rule the underworld. Our Yan family won't rob you guys of your interest. However, we will be collecting 20% of your resources. What? 20%. Before Yan Gukong had finished his words, a middle-aged man couldn't help but exclaim. Wait for me to finish. Yan Gukong stared at the middle-aged man and said plainly. The middle-aged man immediately held his breath and did not dare to say another word. The surrounding crowd turned solemn as they waited for Yan Gukong. Second, now that the underworld is changing and the competition for resources has gotten fiercer, our Yan family welcomes any families who wish to become our affiliates. Third, ancient martial arts families in Rivertown have been fighting over their own interests all along. I feel that we should get together and take a common stand against outsiders for survival. Anyone has any objections? Ruthless. Ruthless, ruthless. Each announcement was more ruthless than the previous. First, collecting 20% of interests from every family. Second, recruiting affiliates to the Yan family. Third, becoming the king of Rivertown. In other words, it was similar to the ruler of the underworld in ancient times. When Yan Gukong completed his announcement, the surrounding martial artists and ancient martial arts families instantly turned solemn. The 3 announcements of Yan Gukong were simply ruthless. Our Xiao family supports the Yan family. Old Yan and Yan family's strength are something that we all could see with our eyes. At this moment, a middle-aged man stood up and replied loudly. As he spoke, he looked across the crowd. Yan family's strength is miles ahead of us. If old Yan really wants to do a major reshuffling in Rivertown, who can possibly stop him? Old Yan is compassionate. The three conditions aren't too tough. Our Xiao family is willing to support the Yan family. I, Chang Gaoyang, am willing to join the Yan family. I've always held old Yan in high regards. I'm willing to join Yan family and be on the same boat as them. Our Wu family is willing to support the Yan family and become an affiliated family. One after another, leaders of various ancient martial arts families and martial artists stood up and announced their desire to join and support the Yan family. There were more than 24 people who stood up and pledged their loyalty to the Yan family. Great. Now that you guys have joined our Yan family will naturally be kind to you. All of you will be part of the Yan family from today onwards. Yan Gukong looked on as he spoke to the 24 people. It is obvious that these people are bought over by the Yan family in advance. 20% of our interests and to follow the instructions of the Yan family from here onwards. That's equivalent to treating us as his subordinates. That's too much. The conditions of the Yan family were truly too much. Some were agreeable but the majority wasn't willing to accept. The Yan family wants to collect 20% of our interests the moment they announce their return, and have even demanded our obedience. That's no different from treating us as their subordinates. The few families, which were seated at the forefront, exchanged glances. Old Yan, aren't you too overbearing with your 3 conditions? Although the Yan family is strong, aren't you a little too over yourself by demanding to collect our interests and treating us like your subordinates? Our Hu family is just a small family. All we are looking for is to survive steadily. We will not be participating in this. Seated in the first row, Hu Fei, who sat beside the leader of the Hu family, stood up and spoke to Yan Gukong. The families in Rivertown have always sought their own development. Moreover, the relationships between ancient martial arts families in Rivertown are cordial. I don't think your concerns are warranted. The 20th generation leader of the Ren family, who was a level 9 martial artist, also stood up and made his decision known. Old Shui, Old Duan, and the leaders of a few other families also stood up. With regard to these 3 conditions, they couldn't agree. Great. Great. It's all right. It's only natural that you guys won't agree. Yan Gukong laughed out loud. However, his expression turned vicious as he looked at the remaining martial artists. However, don't forget that we are part of the underworld. In the underworld, experts rule. If you guys don't agree, the Yan family can only suppress you guys and make you guys agree with violence. Chapter 135, Craziness Before Destruction, 3. Domineering. Confident. Arrogant. With his dragon head walking stick in his hand, Yan Gukong swept his overbearing gazes across everyone. The crowd next to Yan Gukong overlooked the rest of the people, exuding powerful aura. Old Yan, aren't you a bully? We're just a small family. You don't have to be so pushy. I have been in the underworld for more than 10 years, and I still have some connections. The Hu family just wants to stay out of this. Hu Fei said to Yan Gukong and his clique sullenly. His purpose here this time was not to fight for any status. He just wanted to ensure the safety of the Hu family. He had seen situations like what happened tonight in the Yan family throughout his dozen years of underworld experience. When a powerful family rises, the rest of the families either submit to it or be destroyed. This was the norm in the underworld. Hence, he was here to protect the Hu family. Oh. Is that so? Yan Gukong remained silent. But the young man next to him looked at Hu Fei with a teasing look. The whirling blade Hu Fei. I have heard of your name. It's just that I'm not sure if you have what it takes to be a legend. As the young man spoke, he slowly walked down from the table. Hu Fei frowned as he glared disgruntledly at that young man. I'm talking to old Yen. You're not fit to talk to me yet. Is that so? The young man swung his arms, and a belt sword appeared creepily in his hand. He lifted his chin slightly and said, Sacred Seas of Swords, Yen Feng. I want a taste of your blade. What? Sacred Seas of Swords. Hu Fei was stunned by Yen Feng and he looked shocked. His eyes narrowed. You're from the Sacred Seas of Swords. Ha, you can test me. Aren't you a level 9 martial artist? Yen Feng put on a smiling face and looked as though he was someone charming. Oh, you said you have many friends. Just nice. I have friends too. Haha, good to have friends around the world. At the same time, a gentle and feminine voice was heard. Subsequently, a fair-looking young man stood from the back of the row. The young man made a leap and presented himself in front of the Yen family at an unbelievable speed. He sat down on an empty seat there with a smile. It's a better seat here. What a broad vision. He's formidable. He's fast. This young man is at least a level 9 martial artist. Gosh, this young man is actually from Sacred Seas of Swords. Sacred Seas of Swords. Gone. I did not expect that young man to be someone from the Sacred Seas of Swords. The Yen family is unstoppable. The martial artists were differentiated by levels, as were the families and clans. In the underworld, the families and clans were split into third-class force and saint-class force. According to this classification, the Yen family was considered to be the second class, while the first-class force would already have inborn experts. As for the saint-class forces, it meant the families or clans possessed daunting influence and strength with over 10 inborn experts. Sacred Followers Guild, Medical Saints Sect, and Sacred Seas of Swords were colossuses. Even Yen Feng was a member of the saint-class force, and no average families or sects could afford to get into his bad books. Hu Fei glared at Yen Feng with a dreadful expression. He did not expect that the young man before him was a disciple of the Sacred Seas of Swords. The Sacred Seas of Swords headquarters was located on an island in the sea. That island was one of the sacred lands of swordsmanship. The young man who was recruited by the Sacred Seas of Swords must be a rare talent. The sword versus the saber. Show me your skill. If you can defeat me, I'll let the Hu family leave this place. Otherwise. Yen Feng lifted his chin and wielded his belt sword like an agile snake. The sharp edge of the sword gave off a cold radiance. Ha, my grandson has made himself clear. Show us what you've got so that we know if you're qualified to defy the Yen family. Yen Gukong looked at his grandson and laughed out loud. It was a great blessing to the Yen family that this grandson of his was a disciple of the Sacred Seas of Swords. With his grandson around, they could suppress the entire Rivertown even without him making his moves. Fine. Hu Fei curled his fingers tightly and took out a sharp machete from his back. His impassive eyes were focusing on Yen Feng. I'm going to attack. Yen Feng drew his lips into a faint smile. His body made a quick move and attacked Hu Fei like a ghostly soul. His move is creepy. Indeed, the disciple of the Sacred Seas of Swords. Hu Fei narrowed his pupils and held his machete tight as he brought it down in front of him. The blade brought a whirling gust of wind. Piak. But when his machete came into contact with the sword, the belt sword wrapped it like an agile snake. It went for Hu Fei's hand and stabbed it. What a creepy sword. Hu Fei was appalled. He quickly drew his machete back, but even so, his palm got a wound that cut into his bone. The victory was determined within a stroke. What a daunting young man. He possesses a level 9 strength at such a young age. In the future, he can definitely be an inborn expert. Too dominating. He's only in his 20s, he is capable of defeating Hu Fei. This. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. How can we resist the Yen family? Everyone was dumbfounded by the scene. Ah! At the same time, Hu Fei, who had exchanged more than 10 strokes, was horrified. All of a sudden, Feng had another transparent soft sword in his hand. The sword went through Hu Fei's shoulder, and his face paled after this. You can exchange more than 20 strokes with me. Not bad. Feng gave Hu Fei praise. Hu Fei's face was ashen. He stared at Feng in disbelief with his body trembling. He was already a famous level 9 expert. Hu Fei, the leader of the Hu family, was panicked as he ran over. We admit our loss. We lost. What the leader of the Hu family said made everyone shudder. It's over. It's completely over. The Yan family is unstoppable. Bai family is willing to follow the lead of the Yan family. Gu family is willing to join hands and fight along with the Yan family. I, Gu Xinghe, am willing to join the Yan family. All of a sudden, some of the families and martial artists made their pledge to Yan family. The Yan family was too strong. They were so strong that they could easily suppress everyone. Since the sparring has begun, let's do a few more rounds to make those who refuse to submit to us surrender. Suddenly, Yan Zhongyuan, who was standing in front, made his speech. He walked out slowly and swept his cold gazes across a few people. He's trying to get rid of all his enemies. Beat the dog before the lion. The Yan family is eliminating those who have offended them. Everyone's face was pale when they saw Yan Zhongyuan approaching them. They were praying that he would not look for them. Old Shui and Old Duan saw Yan Zhongyuan looking over, and their faces were washed out. Both of them had grudges. Chapter 136, Descent of the King, 1. The Yan family sat there like how a king would. Every action or word from them was watched closely by the surrounding people. No one could stop them. And they wouldn't be stopped. Just like the return of the king. The return of the true ruler. Don't push it. Seeing Yan Zhongyuan approaching him, his body was shivering slightly and fear started creeping on him. Behind him, the other Duan family members' faces were as white as sheets as they stood there helplessly. What do you mean by pushing it? This is just like any other ordinary sparring. My nephew is a martial artist level 9 expert and so is Hu Fei. We are both at martial artist level 8. Yan Zhongyuan looked at old Duan tauntingly before turning to old Shui. Oh right, where's that brat, Wang Xian? Why isn't he here? Old Shui's heart sank and had a ghastly expression. He knew that his close relationship with Wang Xian on that day had completely angered the Yan family. I gave him an invitation letter but it seems like he's not here today. Yan Feng looked around with derision. His medical skills are so great and he has the capital to be proud. I still thought he would appear. It seems like he has disappointed me. He shook his head gradually and looked a little disappointed. However, I told him that if he wasn't here, he'd better watch out for his family and friends. Yan Feng stared at old Shui and smirked. Those who offend our Yan family will definitely deeply regret their actions. Come, let's spar. Yan Zhongyuan looked to old Xian and said plainly. Yan Feng waved his hand to signal for a martial artist level 7 expert from Yan family to step out. He then looked towards old Shui in contempt. Alright. Who's afraid of you? Come. Old Duan's face turned solemn. He clenched his fist tightly and walked to the middle of the field. Old Shui was equally solemn as he faced that expert from the Yan family. The crowd held their breath and looked at old Duan and old Shui with pity. They were currently the third and fourth strongest families in Rivertown. And were extremely strong existences in the entire Rivertown. However, in the face of the Yan family, they couldn't do anything but be manipulated by them. They could already foresee the Duan family and Shui family being erased from Rivertown in the near future. Ha! Come, come! Yan Zhongyuan laughed heartily before launching his attack. This was originally a training field and there was ample space. Cripple him. Tell Wang Xian that this is just the beginning. If he dares to be a coward, I'll let him experience a life worse than death. Yan Feng said to the martial artist from the Yan family. Yes, young master. That middle-aged man nodded his head and stared harshly at old Shui. Wang Xian. Tisk. Contempt filled the eyes of Yan Feng. As one that was favored by the gods, he was spotted by an expert from the sacred seas of swords and had trained under him since he was young. When he was 18 years old, he was brought to the sacred seas island by his master. He had always been under the dazzling limelight when growing up. Soon, the Yan family would become the king of the entire Rivertown. At that time, he would be the crown prince of Rivertown. No one would dare to go against his words. So what if that brat has some medical skills? Crushing him would be as simple as crushing an ant. Yan Feng smirked and stared at old Shui. He looked to the surrounding crowd and spread his domineering aura towards them. On the training field, Yan Zhongyuan was engaged in an intense fight with old Duan. Old Shui and the middle-aged man were also fighting with all they had. Nonetheless, it was clear that old Duan and old Shui were on the losing end. Since the Yan family had chosen them for the battles, they would definitely be confident about the outcome. It's over. Old Shui and old Duan are probably going to be defeated soon. Yan Zhongyuan and the other martial artist are ruthless with each strike. The third and fourth strongest families are going to be crushed so easily. That's horrifying. The crowd looked attentively at the battle of these four people and discussed softly. Shui Jing, his father and the members of the Duan family were all watching anxiously. Their faces were as white as sheets and their eyes were filled with despair. Arg! Arg! A piercing scream sounded and the crowd felt as if their hearts skipped a beat. Yan Zhongyuan palm struck ruthlessly on the chest of old Duan, causing it to sink in directly. It was an extremely brutal scene. As for old Shui, his four limbs were crippled and he lay on the floor motionless. Even his elixir field had been crushed. A complete tragedy. As the two old men fell, it also represented the complete destruction of the Shui family and Duan family. Shui Jing and his father's eyes were bloodshot and they stared at the members of the Yan family with deep hatred. The members of the Duan family were shivering in anger and clenching their fists tightly. However, they didn't dare to retaliate. Undermatch. Who still dares to go against our Yan family? At this moment, seeing that old Duan and old Shui were lying on the floor, Yan Gukong stood up slowly and shouted. He lifted the dragon head walking stick in his hand slowly. Who else? It was another angry roar. This roar was full of might, dominance, and the aura of an expert. When his dragon head walking stick landed on the ground, a low and dull sound propagated together with an invisible air wave towards the crowd. Instantly, everyone felt a faint sense of pressure. Half step. Inborn. The leader of the Ren family, who was seated in the front, instantly opened his eyes widely. His face was filled with horror. This aura was definitely from someone who was at the half step to inborn realm. He had not expected Yan Gukong of the Yan family to make this step and achieve the realm of half step to inborn. Half step to inborn. Oh my gosh. He's at the half step to inborn realm. Old Yan is a half step to inborn expert. I'll surrender. I'll surrender. The surrounding martial artists were all shocked. We are willing to defer to the Yan family. We are willing to follow the commands of the Yan family from here onwards. The remaining martial artists, who had not made a stand previously, immediately bowed down. A disciple of sacred seas of swords and a half-step to inborn expert. What a horrifying family. They might very well become a first-class family in the future. The martial artists bowed down to show their will to submit. On the training field, old Shui looked at the horrifying Yan family in despair. Even if Wang Xian was here right now, there would be no other way out. It's over. Ha, follow our Yan family and you will bask in glory in the near future. Yan Gukong looked at the crowd and laughed heartily. He then added 4 words, the king has returned. Let's give up. The leader of the Ren family felt helpless. He knew that the Yan family couldn't be stopped and they couldn't oppose the Yan family. What was left for them would be only to surrender. Although he was unwilling, there was no other option for him. Just as he was about to lower his body, a voice sounded suddenly. The invitation letter stated that the banquet would start at 8 p.m. It's 8 p.m. right now. It seems like someone has been impatient. It was unexpected and the surrounding crowd was shocked. They turned around and looked at the entrance. A juvenile was walking towards them with a faint smile. There was a group of people following behind this juvenile and they had a unique disposition around them. All of them had completely sealed their auras. One could not sense a shred of internal energy from them. It was as though they were ordinary people. Everyone was shocked to see this group of people. Within the Ren family crowd, Ren Jian saw a familiar figure. Looking at the old man beside the figure, his eyes constricted. He's here. Chapter 137, Descent of the King, 2. Within the group of 53 people, a young man was walking in the center with an elderly man following beside him. The young man put on a smile and swept his gaze across everyone in front of him casually. But when he saw the old man who was lying on the ground, his smile slowly disappeared. The banquet in the training field was plunged into silence as they watched the incoming group of people. Who are you? How dare you make a scene in the Yan family's mountain villa, a martial artist from Rivertown shouted at the top of his lungs. He wanted to please the Yan family. A bunch of small fries. How dare you even mess with the Yan family? The leader of the Bai family also did the same thing. The ones who just arrived were Wang Xian and his dragon sect. He swept his cold gaze across everyone and strolled to old Shui. I didn't think you'd dare to come. I thought you were a coward. When Feng saw Wang Xian bring his men over, he gave a faint smile after looking at them. Feng did not take those people to heart. In fact, he felt that this was getting interesting. It's only 8 o'clock now. I thought I was punctual, but I didn't expect the dinner to have been brought forward. You're not sticking to the time. Wang Xian threw an impassive look at Feng, the so-called Mr. Feng in school, before he came to old Shui and squatted beside him. Wang Xian, you're here. Be careful. The Yan family, they are, just too strong, said old Shui with an ashen-looking face, in despair as he looked at Wang Xian. Don't worry, old Shui. Leave this to me. Wang Xian placed his palm on old Shui and used his dragon energy to treat him. The 4 limbs of old Shui had been crippled, and his elixir field was destroyed. His life as a martial artist was completely ruined. But to Wang Xian, this was nothing. An immense dragon energy repaired all his injuries. Old Shui recovered speedily, and his expression was slightly different when he stared blankly at Wang Xian. Wang Xian smiled at him and lifted him up from the floor slowly. Old Shui was injured because of him. However, he was not too late. He could still treat the injuries, and for those who hurt his friends, he could. Well, what powerful medical skills you have. No wonder the Sacred Followers Guild was defeated by you. Feng's eyes brightened up when he saw old Shui stand up suddenly. I'll give you a chance to atone for your mistake. Submit to the Yan family, and I can forgive your rude and imprudent behavior. I can also let your friends off. As he spoke, he was looking down his nose at Wang Xian, giving off immense confidence from within. Feng stared at him as though he was looking at his prey. As the one favored by the gods, he had never regarded Wang Xian as his match. Wang Xian wore a smiling face and looked over. Yan Feng was overconfident such that he was arrogant. Wang Xian ignored Yan Feng. Old Shui, who hurt you? I sparred with a martial artist from the Yan family, and I was crippled by him. Old Shui had a bitter look on his face. After all, it was his fault for being poor enough with his skills to get eliminated by a martial artist of the same level. Sparring? Wang Xian looked at the Yan family. Since all of you like sparring, then spar with my people. Show me what the Yan family has got as the return of the king. Huh, lad. I guess you want it the hard way. I've given you a chance. If you make me angry, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Yan Feng looked at Wang Xian, who disregarded him with a ferocious look. Lad, with just these people of yours, we could destroy them without the Yan family. Old Yan, we'll cripple these arrogant fellows on your order. One by one, the martial artists and the families sought permission from Old Yan as they raised their cold voices at Wang Xian. Yan Gukong made a gesture, and all the martial artists went silent immediately. None of them dared to utter a word. You are the fellow who offended our distinguished guest from the Sacred Followers Guild, disregarding the Yan family, aren't you? Yan Gukong glared at Wang Xian, questioning him. Your people injured my friend, right? Wang Xian did not answer him. He also stared at Yan Gukong and questioned him back. This is what happens when you go against the Yan family. Yan Gukong said without any emotions. Very well. Since you like it this way, I'll do it your way. Wang Xian nodded impassively. He swept his gazes around and bellowed in a cold voice, who was the one who injured my friend? Step out now. It's me, brat. I'll cripple him every time after you heal him. This is the consequence of offending the Yan family. The middle-aged man who fought with Old Shui spoke impassively to Wang Xian as he looked at Old Shui scornfully. Well then, let's spar. Wang Xian beckoned, and a Dragonian walked out in wide steps. Level 7 martial artist, Mo San. The Dragonian stared at that middle-aged man. Ha, challenging the Yan family? That's interesting. Upon seeing Wang Xian sending his people to fight with the Yan family, Yan Gukong laughed out. If so, it's only polite to accept the challenge. Let's play with them. The middle-aged man let out a cold laugh. He bowed to Yan Gukong before he stared at Mo San with his chin up. I'll destroy you. Given Yan Beiyun and Old Shui's combat skills, Yan Beiyun is at his peak as a level 7 martial artist. He could be even a level 8 martial artist. The art that he practiced was already formidable. Among the martial artists at level 7, and he's almost invincible. Yet this juvenile actually challenged him. He's obviously courting his own death. Who's that young guy who dares to provoke the Yan family? He even shows himself at this dinner today. He's asking for it. This fellow wasn't here just now, so he didn't witness how formidable the Yan family is. Now, he seems like a clown, copying the Yan family by asking for a spar. Hee hee, what a joke. Everyone stared at Wang Xian with disdainful looks. The less wit, the more courage. If he dared to provoke the mighty one, his outcome would be dreadful. Wang Xian listened to the surrounding discussion. Seeing the arrogant expression on the middle-aged man's face, Wang Xian revealed a playful look. Boom! Just when everyone was waiting for Mo San to be abused by Yan Beiyun, Mo San moved. A faint black aura was exuded from his body as he charged rapidly at the middle-aged man like some savage beast. Some capability he has. The middle-aged man squinted his eyes. He curled his fingers into a fist tightly and darted out. Trash! Boom! A faint voice sounded from the training ground, followed by a low groan. The middle-aged man from the Yan family flew out at a terrifying speed. His sunken chest could be seen in the air. Bam! The middle-aged man from the Yen family landed on the table heavily and lay there without moving. How is this possible? Everyone was taken aback. That middle-aged man was at the peak of level 7. But he was instantly killed by someone of the same level. This was unbelievable. Brat, how dare you lie to us? Damn you. Seeing his clan mate being killed in a split second, Yen Zhongyuan was furious. He would never believe that Imo Shi-san was only a level 7 martial artist. At his level, he could never achieve an instant kill. Chapter 138, Descent of the King, 3. Die. Twisting his body, Yen Zhongyuan lifted a sword and slashed towards Imo Shi-san rapidly. How dare you send a level 8 martial artist expert to battle a level 7 martial artist expert from the Yen family? That's despicable. TSK. Just a brat courting death. This time, the Yen family will definitely not let them off. The crowd looked on coldly as Yen Zhongyuan launched his attacks. Although it was shocking that Imo Shi-san had defeated the middle-aged man from the Yen family in an instant, the crowd saw Wang Xian's action of hiding Imo Shi-san's true strength as the reason for his imminent downfall. Despite seeing Yen Zhongyuan making his moves, Wang Xian did not say a word. Instead, he simply smiled and looked on. Those who dare to offend our king shall all die today. Imo Shi-san looked at Yen Zhongyuan. Around him, devilish flames were rising. His fingers turned into a claw as he swung his arm. One could vaguely see faint scales on the hands of Imo Shi-san. Dragon scales. Courting death. Yen Zhongyuan manipulated the long sword in his hand. To his astonishment, he saw Imo Shi-san intending to take the attack directly with his bare hand. Murderous intent filled his face as he slashed down ruthlessly. Bam! However, what happened sent chills down Yen Zhongyuan's spine. Imo Shi-san had grabbed onto the long sword directly with his hand. Moreover, cracks were starting to appear on his long sword. Roar! Imo Shi-san let out a low growl as he attacked heavily with his right hand. Yen Zhongyuan was shocked by the development and immediately raised his arm to defend against the attack. Crack crack. To his astonishment, he heard the bones of his arms cracking. Bam bam bam. Imo Shi-san clenched his claws and dealt 5 consecutive punches to Yen Zhongyuan's forelimbs and elixir field. In less than 10 moves, Yen Zhongyuan was down on the ground. Martial artist level 9, the crowd exclaimed, looking on in disbelief. He is definitely a martial artist level 9 expert. Otherwise, he wouldn't have defeated Yen Zhongyuan so easily. Yen Zhongyuan could be considered as very strong even among martial artist level 8 experts. Bam! Great! How dare you make a fool of the Yen family? You have completely angered me. When Yen Gukong saw Yen Zhongyuan crippled by Imo Shi-san, the dragon head walking stick in his hand smashed heavily on the floor. At the same time, a strong and dense aura started emitting from his body. He stared at Wang Xian with murderous intent. I have made my decision. You won't be stepping out of the Yen family's gate tonight. Yen Feng lifted his belt sword and pointed at Wang Xian. His belt sword was like an agile snake and had a dazzling glow. Let me destroy him. Yen Gili, who was beside Yen Gukong, walked over slowly with a heavy look. His eyes were fixed on Imo Shi-san. I'm really just a level 7 martial artist. Imo Shi-san pouted and looked at him with murderous intent. Mo Yuan, martial artist level 9. At this moment, Mo Qinglong's disciple, Mo Yuan, walked forward and passed Wang Xian. He maintained a cold smile while observing his surroundings. Mo Shi-san bowed to Mo Yuan before leaving. Mo Yuan nodded in response before looking to Yen Gili. Yen Gili's expression changed and the crowd was stunned. Everyone's attention was on Mo Yuan. It can't be. Mo Yuan looks so much stronger than Mo Shirsan. Mo Shirsan claimed to be martial artist level 7 but was able to easily crush martial artist level 8. Now we have Mo Yuan, who looks much stronger and is claiming to be martial artist level 9. How strong is this group of people? The martial artists around looked at Mo Yuan in disbelief. At this moment, they had put away their disdain and chose to take this group of people more seriously. Yan Gukong from the Yan family also squinted his eyes. His palm wrapped around the dragon head walking stick tightly and he suddenly had a bad premonition. Yan Feng's expression had also turned heavy. He looked at Mo Yuan before looking across at the group of people behind Wang Xian. Playing tricks. Yan Guli's expression changed dramatically. He gritted his teeth and jumped towards Mo Yuan. You? Not good enough. Mo Yuan looked nonchalantly at Yan Guli and his face was filled with contempt. Die. Yan Guli's palm turned red, emitting dazzling and scorching light as he struck towards Mo Yuan's head. Dragon Claw. Mo Yuan was unmoved. Just as Yan Guli's attack was about to hit him, he swung his 5 fingers like a claw towards Yan Guli. Arg! Horror and shrieks sounded. Mo Yuan grabbed onto Yan Guli's arm easily. His eyes were filled with contempt as he said, "You are too weak." Next. Bam! Yan Guli was sent flying back and landed heavily in front of Yan Gukong. He was throwing out blood violently. Instant kill. How can this be possible? He can't be a level 9 martial artist. Definitely not. He is at least a half-step to Inborn Realm expert. Half-step to Inborn. Could it be that he is really at the half-step to Inborn Realm? Who is that juvenile? How is he able to bring along such powerful people? Shock. Everyone was stunned. No one had expected that juvenile to bring along such horrifying people. What would the Yan family do now? At this moment, the people in the crowd who had chided them to get on the good books of the Yan family previously were turning pale. They would have never expected this group of people to be so powerful. The members of the Yan family turned solemn. Even the arrogant looks on Yan Gukong were gone. Yan Feng had also put aside his arrogance and looked at Wang Xian in disbelief. Hee. Let's continue. Wang Xian said as he looked across the crowd at Mo Yuan. Yes. Mo Yuan nodded his head and turned his attention to Yan Gukong in the middle. Only you are qualified to be my opponent. Yan Gukong's expression turned ghastly and his hand that was holding onto the walking stick started shivering. This is unexpected. Really unexpected. May I ask, where are you guys from? Dragon Sect. Mo Yuan said plainly. Dragon Sect? I don't think we have any deep grudges between us. If we continue with this fight, you wouldn't come out unscathed. Yan Gukong stared at Mo Yuan as he spoke. Since you have offended our Dragon King, it's only natural to annihilate you. Mo Yuan pouted. As to whether we would come out unscathed, your Yan family isn't qualified to say that. You are really full of nonsense. Mo Yuan spoke, and as he finished his words, the devilish aura around him raged fiercely as he attacked Yan Gukong. Fight! Yan Gukong was shocked. The opponent was too overbearing. Get back! Get back! Battles between half-step to Inborn experts could implicate a large area. Seeing the fight, the leader of the Ren family quickly retreated. All the ancient martial arts families also retreated in a hurry as they looked to the fight in horror. They had initially thought that the Yan family would announce the return of the king and dominate over all others. To their surprise, a juvenile brought a group of horrifying experts over that could even match Yan family's half-step to Inborn Realm expert. Father. That old man is likely to be even stronger than Mo Yuan. Ren Jian and the Ren family were dumbfounded by the fight. When Ren Jian saw the old man behind Wang Xian, he subconsciously recalled the events of that fateful night. He couldn't hold back his thoughts as he spoke to his father. The leader of the Ren family was slightly shocked as he turned his gaze towards the old man in front of the group of 50 people. The old man maintained a faint smile throughout and didn't seem to be concerned about the current battle. Jian, are you sure? The leader of the Ren family was shaking slightly. I'm sure. Ren Jian nodded his head heavily. Inborn expert. Horror crept into the leader of the Ren family. Chapter 139, He's the King of Rivertown, 1. Twists and turns, one after another. The eventful twists in the ancient martial arts world of Rivertown stunned everyone. First, Yan family declared a strong return as a king and oppressed the entire ancient martial arts world in Rivertown. Next, a mysterious young man led his dragon sect to challenge the Yan family. Everyone opened their eyes to a new world when they saw two half-step to inborn experts fighting at the stage of the training ground. But they were all waiting since their fates were closely linked to the victorious party. All the people from the Yan family were looking gloomy as they observed the showdown. Their arrogance and egotism were long gone. Too fast. We can't see their moves clearly. Is this the half-step to inborn experts combat? It's horrifying. All the martial artists retreated to the edge of the field as they watched the battle in horror. All they could see were two figures exchanging hands at a fast speed, but they could not see their strokes clearly. Feng held his belt sword tightly as he stared at the field. Is this the best the Yan family can do? Just then, Mo Yuan's voice cut through the battle. How dare you be arrogant when you just became a half-step to inborn? You're gone. As Mo Yuan's cold bellow passed through again, the two entangled figures separated themselves. Puke. Yan Gukong's figure kept going back with his hand clasping at the dragon head walking stick. Ka ka ka. Puke. Yan Gukong's cheeks were flushed with redness as the dragon head walking stick slowly cracked by itself. He spat a mouthful of blood and stared at Mo Yuan with an ashen face. What? Everyone was dumbfounded by what they saw. He was defeated. Yan Gukong from the Yan family was defeated. The Yan family is defeated. Rivertown is going to change hands again. That middle-aged man is incredibly powerful. Gone. No one thought that the day that the king returns would be the day they would be defeated. The surrounding martial artists had mixed expressions. Old Yan. Brother. The people from the Yan family held their breath as they ran towards Yan Gukong. All of them stared at Mo Yuan with an icy cold look. Yan Gukong was panting as he glared at Mo Yuan with a gloomy look. He gritted his teeth. I've lost. I think you can still go on. Mo Yuan walked towards Yan Gukong slowly with a sarcastic smile on his face. We admitted our loss. What else do you want? An old man from the Yan family asked Mo Yuan with an awful look. Just now, my friend was defeated. Didn't you cripple him? Wang Xian looked at the people from the Yan family with a mocking expression. He cast a look at Yan Feng. With a nonchalant face, he asked, now you know the consequences for threatening me. You, Yan Feng stared coldly at Wang Xian without all his calmness and arrogance. I'm the disciple of the sacred seas of swords. My master is an inborn expert. If you dare to lay a finger on the Yan family, all of you will die. Ha, inborn expert. Claps of thunderous laughter were heard. Get your inborn expert from the Yan family out then. Otherwise, I'll be too bored. Ha. Suddenly, the laughter took over the entire training ground. Everyone was surprised as they quickly located the source of the sound. An old man who had been standing in front of the 50 people walked out slowly. His hair was swaying even without the moving air as he exuded immense black aura from his body. The demonic aura lingered. Within a range of 10 meters in the sky, a demonic dragon roar could be heard vaguely. Gulps. Inborn. He's an inborn. An inborn showed up. That old man is actually an inborn. Gosh, the Yen family is finished. That old man is an inborn expert. Indeed, just as Xian said, he's an inborn, and he's even more daunting than those whom I've met. That imposing deposition was invincible. All the people around shuddered as they sensed the imposing demeanor of Mo Qinglong, the inborn expert with mighty and powerful oppression. The oppression made them tremble in their boots. Inborn realm, would anyone from the Yen family like to fight with me? Mo Qinglong stood beside Wang Xian and swept his cold gaze across all the members of the Yen family as he yelled. Inborn. Yen Gukong was shaking violently as despair flashed across his eyes. Everyone from the Yen family glanced at Mo Qinglong with fear and hopelessness. Just now, they were acting like they were invincible to all the martial artists in Rivertown, just like this inborn expert was doing now. But at this moment, they were like those martial artists from before, feeling frightened against this group of people. They had a deeper sense of despair and fear. I heard that the Yen family was full of experts. The dragon sect would like to challenge them. Mo Yuan exuded his imposing aura and strolled behind Wang Xian. At the same time, the 50 Dragonians released their magnificent fighting spirit and disposition. Demonic aura lingered around the 50 Dragonians. As the aura gathered, they looked like an army of demons. Gosh! Everybody stared at Mo Yuan and the 50 Dragonians. All of them had fear in their eyes. All of them possessed a similar demeanor to Mo Shirsan. Where did this dragon sect come from? How could they be so terrifying? How can it be? Over 50 people who could crush Yen Zhongyuan. Hee. The Yen family is finished. How could it be? How could it be? Yen Gukong could not believe his eyes when he saw the demeanor displayed by the Dragonians. Yen Feng had an extremely awful look on his face. More than 50 powerful existences with a half-step to inborn and an inborn expert. Things had gone beyond his expectations. What do you want? Yen Gukong asked in a low voice with a dreadful look. Now, he did not even dare to raise his voice. He was no different from those families and martial artists just now. You were the one who invited me here. What do you think? Wang Xian looked at Yen Gukong, then turned to Yen Zhongyuan, who was on the floor, and Yen Feng. He asked playfully, all of you said there will be another corpse in the Bohai Sea if I offended the Yen family. You all even asked me to think of my friends. Ha! Wang Xian chuckled and stared at Yen Gukong. His expression turned cold. You tell me what I should do. His words caused embarrassment to the Yen family. If anyone dared to speak to the Yen family like this, there would be no doubt about the consequence: extermination. When they thought about it, all of them trembled. I'm the disciple of the sacred seas of swords. They have dozens of inborn experts. But this time, the Yen family lost, Yen Feng said slowly as his body shook and he stared at Wang Xian. His words hinted a warning and a plead. He mentioned sacred seas of swords because he wanted to protect the Yen family. Why are you admitting defeat now? Wang Xian stared at Yen Feng and said sarcastically. Didn't you want me to submit to the Yen family, and think about my friends? Besides, do you think I'll let you off when you mention sacred seas of swords? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.